It does increase, that I do know. But as far as what percentage, I couldn't actually tell you offhand. I would need to ask the county auditor. Because there's a portion that social services includes and a portion that comes out of my budget to compile that request.
I thought that was supposed to be only at the end of the 5 years, supposed to be an increase on the lease.
As far as I know, sir, it's going to be, my understanding, it's a renegotiating contract, but I'm not too in-depth into it.
We can ask county attorney to look at it.
Yes, most
Dale?
federal contracts have an increase yearly based on cost that they have, so we'd have to look at the contract to see if there is a increase. A lot of times they base it on CPI.
Okay, I thought it was a one-time deal every 5 years.
This one's 2%.
It's 2%.
2%
And that's what it is.
every 12 months.
So it's gone up. Not significantly, but still.
But Dale, you're prepared. You've got that in the budget for the 5 years.
Okay.
Okay. So if we knew that going in, is it really a budget increase request if we
No,
already,
It's just an adjustment each year. It's
just an
not-
adjustment? I don't want to count that against Martin if it's already,
it's a
we knew
required
it.
increase. It's a required increase. There's
Okay,
no-
okay, Martin, you get off the hook on that
We
one.
got 2 years to go anyway.
Yes, sir. Come this July, this will be our third year at the RTA.
And tell us just, you like it, right? It's good for the veterans and the space and the,
It's great for the veterans. The reason is because of the handicap accessibility. The doors are a lot wider. There's a waiting area that the veterans can wait. So, they don't have, when we were here at the courthouse, they would have to wait out in the atrium or sit around the fountain waiting to be seen. And here, this gives us the opportunity to where they can sit, especially if they're on a walker or on a wheelchair or on crutches. So this has definitely afforded us the opportunity to where they can come in
I think the most important thing
and have a seat.
is the RTA being able to ride the bus to the building.
Yes, that's another one too.
That was one of the big sellers.
Exactly. Because there are some veterans that, their only mode of travel is the RTA. So they'll schedule their pickup either to come see us or to go to the VA clinic. So it's been worthwhile because, with the mode of transportation, everything changes all the time.
plus I like just the first floor. You walk in, it's right there. There's no
Exactly.
confusion at all.
You don't have to climb any stairs. We're pretty accessible.
I got a question, Mayor. I'm looking at this here. So you're saying the secretary is 32,000 right now, and you wanted to raise it to 37,000?
Yes, sir. And I want to change, also, I would like to change the title on that because basically the administrative secretary, she's taken on duties on herself of organizing different events, giving presentations in the community. Not just that, but being the public relations and the marketing when I'm disposed doing something else. So, she's taken on additional duties besides what she does on her regular administrative duties. So this is something I would like to change her title from administrative secretary to veterans resource specialist. So the VA has been changing, from 2010 to 2019. We've been basically, I went back and I looked at the budget and I looked at the numbers. We've been operating on the same budget. Nothing has changed. 2018 was the only time that we had to do a decrease across the board, across the county. So we went ahead and did that. Everything that we do, all our events, for example, the Veterans Resource Fair, that's done at no county expense or tax dollar expense. The Veterans Resource Fair also at one time, or the Veterans Stand Down, I'm going to say, the Veterans Stand Down was done at one time. It was supposed to be held, the Veterans Administration was doing these events, but for whatever reason they started doing it. I came on board in 2015 and I started asking the questions, well, what are we doing for the veterans? The VA at one time was holding a Veterans Stand Down somewhat, but for whatever reason, people lost interest, people left, so we took over it, and this is a federally run program across the United States. So that's one that we took upon ourselves. Then we started looking at the Resource Fair. This is a state-run program that was run by the land board, but for whatever reason, the ownership was let go. So Nueces County Veteran Service Office took it upon itself to take over it. And, at no cost to the taxpayers or the county, everything that has been done has been with a working relationship with the community and the nonprofits. So everything that we've done for the veterans has been at no cost to the county at all. Everything has been just a good handshake and a good honest word with community partners that are involved. And it's still going to continue because, it's important. A lot of people want to contribute, but you're going to have those that are, for monetary reasons, out for themselves. And that's fine. You're going to nickel and dime it for your organization, I understand. But when you look across the board, it's about the veteran. And I printed up some numbers that I'd like to present to you just across the amount of veterans in each of the 7 counties to include Nueces County. And I'll give you the handout just to show the Commissioners Court the number of veterans that are in the county with a slight increase and decrease. Probably the biggest decrease was due to Hurricane Harvey, because we did have a lot of displaced veterans that, for whatever reason, had to move at no choice. Let me pass this out if y'all don't mind, sir. This shows from 2015 until now the veteran population in each of the counties, in the 7 counties, and Nueces in 2015 was at 28,128, with a slight decrease in 2016 to 27,999, 2017, 27,035, and for 2018, 26,610. And that is due to probably, for one, the biggest one is Hurricane Harvey. And then a lot of the veterans in this community, for whatever reason, are older and are passing on. But one of the biggest things across the board is the monetary compensation and pension that the veterans in this community have drawn and spent. All these tax dollars, if you look at it for 2015, you're looking at $132 million that is spent here in Nueces County by veterans. And all this is received from compensation from benefits that they apply for the VA. And our office is one of the proponents that assist veterans applying for benefits, not just ourselves, but the Texas Veterans Commission. So you're talking large amounts of dollars. And as Corpus starts to grow, all this new infrastructure that is coming in, you're going to add more veterans to the community. So basically, that monetary is going to grow somewhat. A lot of the younger veterans basically haven't taken advantage of applying for their benefits. For what reason, I could not tell you. But the numbers are pretty significant. If you look at the population across the community, no matter if there's a slight decrease, Nueces County still has the largest veteran population across the board.
Interesting.
And usually the influx is during is from the winter Texans, because a lot of them will come down here from the north, spend 6 or 7 months, and sometimes some of them will make Corpus Christi home. So those numbers fluctuate drastically all the time. But it'll show you the percentage on the backside of the slight changes. Not much, but significantly some.
Martin, will you also address the $150,000? You all just got your grant renewed.
Yes,
I think it's important for the
this will be
commissioners
the
to know.
5th year the 5th time that Nueces County Veteran Services, in conjunction with Social Services, has received this grant. This year, this will be the first time that we have the ability to where we can use some of that grant money to where we can hire 2 part-time individuals to assist us in keeping up with the grant, and that will, basically overseeing the grant, issuing out bus passes, hygiene items, ordering food from HEB. At one time, before we had this ability, Social Services would be the one that would go out to HEB, purchase whatever items that we needed for our food pantry. And this time we have the ability to where we can take over that to where Ms. Villarreal or myself can go to either HEB, order what we need in order to keep our food pantry going. And this year is a little bit different. I know last year there was $1.5 million that was issued to a lot of the agencies. This year there's a decrease because there's only 2 agencies out there that actually were grant funded from the Texas Veterans Commission. We were one of them, and the Salvation Army was the other. All the other agencies that applied were denied for whatever reason, So I know this year the money's going to go a lot faster, but now we have the capability to where we can have those 2 individuals and Ms. Villarreal oversee the grant as far as purchasing food pantry, hygiene, bus passes, and then also just verifying that they are a veteran, their service, and doing that handover with Social Services to assist the veterans with rent, utility, and mortgage. So now we're a little bit more robust. I can say now I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my time. But again, like everything else, the VA changes. And one of the biggest changes as of recent is the new Mission Act, the new health care. I've been looking into it, and some of the parts are very vague. So, I sat down, I said, okay, what can we come up with? So there's different things, different approaches I'm looking at, because you have to break it down, because each section is very vague. It doesn't give you what it's about. So I'm looking at doing a lot of outreach, a lot of educational conferences with the veteran community, and just kind of letting them know, inviting them. Probably do a brown bag is what I want to call it, and just kind of educating them, because it's very vague. It's, it's a plug and play kind of thing that just came out. So it's work in progress. So I feel now that we have the ability to where I can concentrate, do presentations, even better, especially because I don't have to worry. There's 2 people in the office that can kind of answer the phone, answer questions, and keep working that on the grant side, and gives me the ability to where I can go outside of the office and do more outreach in the community, which is great. We've done a lot of things in the office. The VA has changed as far as the Mission Act on the benefit side too. So it's all about education, educating the community, educating ourselves. A lot of times we don't receive, how can you say, oh, these are the changes. You got to go out. They'll tell you where it is, but they don't send it to you. You got to go research it. It's like doing homework. It's like anything else. You got to dig in the books and figure out where it's at. And so Villarreal and myself, we've been doing that. Here you have an individual with a college degree working as an administrative secretary. She's been with the county 9 years. And like I tell her, hey, whenever you feel the grass is greener on the other side, you're not going to hurt my feelings, because it's the betterment of you. She's a single parent. She does the best that she can. But definitely this increase and changing her title, because her duties have definitely, her scope has changed, is definitely important, I feel. And then again, it takes a special person when you deal with veterans. Especially, we get a lot of veterans in this area that have mental health issues that come to us. So it takes a special individual to deal with them. In the office, we've had 2 incidences that probably could have escalated, but luckily, I was there to kind of de-escalate them. But, still the police department had to be called in. So, the response time, security could be, involved in something else out at the RTA terminal. So it doesn't take, by the time it's over in 30 seconds, that quick, especially with this one individual here recently at Del Mar that was attending Del Mar, went to the federal courthouse in Dallas, and in conversation with the Veterans Director of Education, he was one of his students, model student, but for whatever reason, he took it upon himself. So I said, I told him you dodged one. And it's a blessing that this individual didn't hurt anybody, either at Del Mar or anywhere else here in Corpus Christi. So, we've been a two-person show for the last 3 years. Everything that we've done has been, we spread ourselves thin sometimes, and that's when we really have to look at what we're doing as far as an office. But now with the grant and having the ability to hire these 2 other individuals is good for us. So basically we can be out there in the community a little bit more, because sometimes we have to go in different directions, give different presentations at times. So I feel, it's just. We've done a lot more with less, and I haven't asked for anything. It's been, nickel and dime here, nickel and dime there. But working with the community, I think we've definitely expanded our horizons. And I'm proud to say that we are a model veteran service office across the board, because the other counties, the things that we're doing, they're trying to implement. But, it's like everything else, you got to work at it. Nothing is a gimme. And we definitely worked at it. I've taken upon myself, to educating the community across the board on the changes the VA has, on the benefit side and on the health side. And it's a continuous thing, because a lot of veterans really don't, know what's going on. A lot of the veteran community is when it comes to, computer-wise, they're not too savvy. A lot of them are afraid to use a computer. So, there's a lot of things that I'm doing outside the office. Before I came on board, it was just regular business. You know, the veteran had to come to us. They would explain, you know, just the regular benefits, what's this, what's that. So when I came on board on 2015, I was like, okay, how can we make this different? So basically, outreach was one of them. Education was another one. The other one was partnering up with the different agencies that provide services to veterans. And I think we're a T plus at that, trained across the board very well. Because we definitely continue to keep doing things for the veterans in the community. Nothing's changed. A lot of people have jumped on board because they want to be a part of it, and that's what's definitely a good thing. Working with social services is another one. Being co-located in the same area, especially with the grant this year, instead of having to walk up and down the stairs or whatever, we verify it. Here you go. You're good to go. They're eligible for the grant. So a lot of things have changed for us. So we're definitely the model for other veteran service offices to emulate, and I take a lot of great pride in that. We're not perfect, but we're doing a lot more than the other counties do. And the other counties, you know, I work with a lot of the service officers, and they're trying to do things, but for them, because they're either part-time, they only work 3 days a week, or because of budgetary constraints, they can only do so much. But everything we do is outside the box. Everything we plan is on a Saturday, because that gives the veterans in the community the ability to where they can come and attend. Monday through Friday doesn't cut it, because most of them work, going to school, or parents. So for those younger veterans, that's why we conduct the events on Saturdays, so they can come out and hear what we have to say about whatever benefits are there for them. So we're definitely on track. We're definitely moving.
You know, Martin, I know you do a lot of outreach. I do a lot of work out there, and I see you, so I commend you for that. But I think at one point, you know, and I know you're asking for $7,800 increase on your salary. I'm really concerned in an area where I think, since veteran population is getting high, maybe we need to look for a counselor to work in the veterans office. You know, sometimes, you know, we move people up and up and up, but I think that we got to look at somebody with skills also, a counselor. But I mean, I don't think we have a counselor. We never had a counselor per se in the veterans office. You know, we have veterans that were veterans, and you know, it's always good for a veteran to talk to a veteran. But a counselor that's trained as a counselor, it makes a big difference. You know, to de-escalate certain things.
Well,
you know, and especially if he was a veteran himself. You know, and so I think we need. You know, eventually. You know, you probably gonna need a secretary anyway. You know, but the way it looks here, you know, because I know you're moving everybody up, so eventually you're gonna come back and say, well, we need somebody else to do the secretary. But I think that in the long run, we need to really look at the importance of having a counselor in that office. You know.
I think the only hang up with that is going to be the privacy issue, because of the space that we have, and we're limited. I mean, if you walk in, our office is open space, and then you have my office, and that's about it. So basically, adding a counselor is a good thing to kind of de-escalate that issue. But I think I've gotten pretty proficient at doing that, especially, you know, having the background that I have to where, okay, I'm not licensed, but...
I admire what you're saying, but, I mean, I don't know if you can take the place of a real counselor as a licensed counselor. So, you know, and I think you got all kinds of skills, and I admire you for that, and you're doing good, you know. But I'm coming from the area of education myself. You know, I'm coming
Yes,
from
sir.
the area that I think that, you know, there's a certain skill, certain people, just like you have a certain skill that you have, and you have good skills, and you have, you know, you're proficient in everything, so you do. Same thing with a counselor. You know, he's got an area he has to deal with, you know, with people of all kinds of levels and all kinds of attitudes and all kinds of personalities. So, you know, I think and that's what I'm getting at. I'm not saying you're not doing the work.
Oh, no,
You know,
I understand,
you
sir.
can't do it. I'm just saying, you know, we probably need to look at that because we never had one.
You're saying that this office should expand its resources, not that,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, you just move people up, and I think eventually we're going to need somebody else there, because I know sooner or later you're going to say, well, if you're going to move secretary up to another different title, well, you're going to need a secretary.
Well, all we're changing is the job
description.
job description. It's administrative secretary to veterans resource specialist.
And the two part-time, when did you get the grant?
We start the grant on 1 July, sir, which is Monday.
And when will you hire the part-time?
They will be on board on 1 July.
Yeah, and just so you know, this grant, so when it runs out, he has to stop
Yeah,
paying them,
once-
which
once-
it ran out not too long ago, and then this is the refunding of it.
Once the grant runs out, those individuals,
They're
basically
done.
they're part-time. Once the grant is gone, hey, we're back to a two-person show. And so, but
Right.
Can we get an intern from TEMUCC that's going through the counseling degree, like doing his last term of counseling and?
we can work it. I mean, I can work it, ask, and see if they're available. That's the main thing. I've been approached by Texas A&M Kingsville from the social services, but really, it's not in the realm, in the scope. I mean, you need somebody that's kind of in a psychology field. Yeah, so we can definitely work that.
And I want to ask Dale a question. I'm so fascinated by this indirect cost allocation opportunity. Any chance here, I'm making just notes as we go through our budget packets, any thought, anytime that we see an opportunity to maybe get an indirect cost come back, will you kind of just shout it out so I can make that note? It'll make us have a better discussion when we get to maybe getting Maria that software that she needs. What about this one? Do you think there's any hope there? Because $15,000 is the request, but if you got the right indirect cost allocation, maybe for these grants, we might be able to find that.
And that's correct, and that's why I've been pushing to try to get an indirect cost allocation plan for forever. What we've had is with juvenile, because when juvenile was doing the 40 cases, we had to have an indirect cost allocation plan to be able to cover some of those costs. We've been pushing it with the health department because they have a lot of indirect costs that they're trying to allocate, and there's really no plan, but we're trying to find out how to best do it, and if we didn't have a plan, we had to use the one we currently have, which really didn't qualify, and it's been a long time since we've done it.
Yeah, gotcha.
And
Well,
it's important to do it where we cover every
Yeah.
area, where it can cover multiple grants, not
Right.
just one particular source of grants.
Right. So Martin, just for your education, you weren't here yesterday, but Maria has sort of
I saw it, ma'am.
oh, you did? Okay. So, she's digging into this opportunity, which is wonderful because this kind of reminds me when I'm shopping and Doug says, you're on their side. You're not on my side. I'm always on your side. And that's because I have made my own compensation study review in my mind. And what you say is true, and I think the commissioners, I hope nobody argues with me because I'm not trying to criticize, but this is systemic. I've now been through 5 budget, packets, and every budget packet is almost the same. That's because we have done nothing to bring people up in the last 4 years, only to cut their resources. And so it's about funding. I hope you know that.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
But no question, I agree with you. We need to get rid of, I wish we did live in a time way back when things were simpler and easier, and we had words that made sense to us like secretary. But those words are no longer appropriate. That's not what you do. It's not indicative of any of your job scope. And I think that the proper title, no matter what, is Veterans Resource Specialist. That's my female opinion, and it's also, it's not that it's demeaning, that word. I was the Secretary of the Port, and I loved that title. The point is that you are a Veterans Resource Specialist based on the job scope and title. We need to really get more modern about that. And then, of course, the money is along with it. Martin, what I've asked, this is sort of stab one, at all these. If you could do us the favor, it doesn't take long, get online, find a couple of counties that are similar to us that have veterans services, and look for best practices, not best practices, but look for the amounts that they're being paid, their resource specialists or their service officers. You can just pick 2 or 3. It's going to help all of us when we really get down into the.
Well, I can do that. And
I appreciate that, and you can just
Pull
give
that
it to
back
Tyner.
got
Tyner
it,
will
ma'am.
give it to anybody else, because I know that you're low, because I've already looked, but I want you to share that with
oh,
everybody.
no, that's easy. I can pull that like nothing, like plucking a chicken.
Judge, everybody's low in this county.
Right.
Everybody.
But that's what we have to be able, you and I know it, but everybody out there needs to know it, because when you make budget decisions, you're making it on behalf of everybody in this county. And so we have to make certain that that's a goal, and you have to actually do it. And even if you can't get to what you guys request, there has to be a role for how we're going to get there.
Correct. And I can do that. That's
Yeah.
too easy.
Judge Joe Benavides wants to say something in your defense here. I don't know.
Joe Benavides, 410 Atlantic Street, Corpus Christi, Texas. Commissioners, accolades to Martin, but I pretty much follow Commissioner Gonzalez, and I'm a former veteran, a disabled veteran. And I think what's most important, I'm pretty sure Martin has done this, is that to partner up with the, there's many, I think there's a lot of help out there. The licensed counselors, Corona Street, the VA out there. You have the hospitals. You have the VA hospital out in North PID. You have the VA clinic, North PID. You have so many federal, state agencies that deal with the VA that I know Martin has probably partnered up with them, but I do believe they have all the tools that's needed. Vice, thinking about spending all this money, I believe that what we need to do is reach out to these institutions that deal with the VA, and I guarantee you that they would help, because all the veterans that come back from the Middle East, they go to the Corona, and if they're not satisfied with a certain VA office, they jump to another one. It's spread out. You got 4 or 5 here in Nueces County, and they jump. The veterans, if they're not getting satisfied in a certain area, they jump to another.
Right.
So you have the DAV. They jump to the DAV.
Yeah. Well, look,
That's
I
what they
mean,
do.
I'm making notes, and every time we want to partner with somebody, it's an awesome idea, and I want to encourage that. We just need the county attorney. I think I saw somebody come in. Hi. We need the county attorney to hear this, because obviously it requires, Lauda, am I not mistaken, right? These require certain agreements with these institutions. And so wonderful idea. I don't think
That was my
yeah, absolutely. I don't think it negates anything that you're asking. This is an extra, but I think that I'll send a little email, and it'll be, request number 1,140 to Lauda this week from me. But the point is that she can at least start that process of getting an interlocal agreement.
And then just so you all know, this collaboration's already been established with the Vet Center, with the VA, with the different organizations, because you have counselors out at A&M that just specialize in assisting veterans with whatever issues they have. So all these are already in place. Nothing's been signed. It's just one of those, hey, we have a veteran that needs to talk to a counselor, needs to see somebody. So those bonds are there already. They've been established. The thing I can say, being a veteran, is, you can have all the mental health services out there that you want. You can spend all this money that you want. But if the veteran is not willing to get the help, he's not going to do it. And I've seen this in the community. And I can tell you, because I've been to a mental health specialist. And when you tell me, when you sit there and you tell me that you understand what I've been through, oh boy, I'm going to turn 180 on you, because you will never know some of the things that we have done and seen. So, it's up to the veteran to get the help. And I mean, you can push them, spend thousands and millions of dollars, hire hundreds of counselors, as the VA is doing. But if the veteran is not willing to get the help, he's not going to do it at all. And I think I chimed on something you said, sir. The best, this is my take, and in dealing with veterans in the community, the best medicine for a veteran is not a counselor, is another veteran sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's what I believe across the board, and that's what I've seen, kind of having that camaraderie, because you have that mutual understanding. You served, you know what they've been through, either male or female, and it's a bond that's shared amongst some. Some are going to reach out for those counselors, and then some just aren't going to.
Martin, in the time we have left, I want to make sure that no commissioner doesn't have any other questions for you, so please let me know, commissioners, if you do. But also, it's because the legislation, this past session, was made to but to allow for a burn pits registry.
Yes, ma'am.
Will that also come into your office? Will you help in that, or will that require any extra duties on your part?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
I mean,
just
that's
checking.
because it's a 501c. It's
Okay.
up to the organization. I know they're
Got
getting
it.
ready to do a ruck march, But as far as, publicizing it for them,
Okay, no, I just wondered whether it was going to create an extra duty for you.
no, that doesn't create any extra duty because,
Just checking.
yeah, I know the VA has a burn pits registry, like an Agent Orange registry, a Desert Storm, Desert Shield registry. So, it basically all these 360 Agent Orange basically is just medical science, gathering evidence on veterans, and to see that hopefully one day, especially on the burn pit side, that these veterans that served will get compensated.
And even though we call it the Mayor's Committee on Veteran Affairs, the truth is that you don't get paid for any of that. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And the truth is that you're the de facto leader and you provide Flag Day, Memorial Day, July 4th, Veterans Day, and those are the ones I can just remember off the top of my head.
Pretty much I was just kind of, hey, you're the
Right.
new guy, you're the young guy, run with it.
Right. You do an amazing job.
and-
Those are awesome events, but I just want to remind those
thank
watching
you.
and listening that that's something that your office is basically doing. I know it's not, I see it as a benefit for our whole county, even though it's got a name that's city-oriented. I see it as, I go to as everyone that I can attend, and I see it as a blessing for all of us in the county.
And the only reason I took it upon myself, I could have declined it, is the service office provides different services to all the veterans here in the community, but just having one individual that kind of can see, left and right, kind of gives me that advantage. So I don't mind doing it. It's volunteer. After 5, yeah, it does take my Saturdays now and then. It does take my Fridays afternoons, but hey, it's only once a month. It ain't gonna break me.
Right.
Anything else that I can answer for you, ma'am?
Thank you.
Commissioners?
I feel good about the understanding your packet, but if you would just get that little extra.
Oh, yeah, that I don't mind. I can pull those numbers like nothing, ma'am.
Appreciate
You
it.
got it.
Thank
All right, thank you for your
Mr.
time.
Villarreal. Thank you for your service.
Have a good day.
Thank you. We're keeping on time. Appreciate that. So now we're going to go to Laura Jimenez with the County Attorney's Office. And let me just move my packet to that.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, we are ready.
They wanted us to.
Is there going to be an increase in Westlaw?
Just a different.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Good morning, good morning.
Morning.
Before I get into the packet, the bottom line is I'm looking at requesting salary improvement or salary increases. But before I do that, I did pass out our report, basically that, how we're doing in our office. It's a small little firm, obviously. We're a total of 11 attorneys, including myself. And unfortunately, we have been having some vacancies, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as to how we can help with that. Since December, we haven't been able to fill that one. And we just filled one from March, and another attorney just left. So we're having a lot of trouble now that we didn't before. One of the biggest things that I require is experience because of the type of work we do. As you well know, everything that your projects always have multiple issues, multiple laws that come into play. So I can't afford to have a baby lawyer. It has to be someone with experience, and in order for us to get those projects done a lot quicker. The base pay for Attorney 2 is $63,460.80. And that's the entry level. And so what I passed out was a breakdown of different counties. Some of them, I tried to get the ones that have more or less the same population and more or less the same duties. And I did include, Corpus Christi, obviously, they always pay higher than us, but just so you can look for a comparison as well. And the Attorney 3, we only have one Attorney 3. So within my office, there's really no upward mobility because, they're all Attorney 2s except for that one Attorney 3. However, I would like to have 2 more Attorney 3s from the existing positions. So I'm not asking for additional attorneys. I'm just asking for higher salaries and a different, obviously, Attorney 3 and Attorney 2 positions. We do have some offset in our budget. There's a couple of offsets that we have. Under the law, I am the attorney for the hospital district, but they do have the authority to hire additional attorneys. And so they pay that Attorney 3 salary completely. And we do work with CPS, Child Protective Services, and we submit our request for reimbursement. We submit our 100%, but they go under a formula which is not 100%, but at least is something. We do get some offset there. We do collect for bail bonds. Unfortunately, the law has changed a little bit, and they're able to release those inmates, those defendants that they represent without having to pay anything. So the numbers are lowered. That duty is not my duty, but I took it over because I thought that was good for the county. And so our office has been doing that for a while now. In addition, we get, as a county attorney and district attorney, we get supplements, a small amount, $70,000, and then we can only use it for salaries and office supplies or equipment. And I have done that. Unfortunately, because we're 11 lawyers, I can only spread it, and I spread it also with the secretaries. So it's a small amount, but it is something that I have done. Unfortunately, that doesn't help in terms of the recruitment of attorneys. It's just a small amount of money for supplement, and so it's not enough to kick them over to have people say, yeah, I want to go work there, especially if they want experience. I should get paid for it. This year, I did give you a yearly report of what we do. Some of you are aware of what we do in our office, but you only see a small part because we deal with you directly. But we handle, obviously, advisories for all the departments. We have 80-plus departments and elected officials. So this year, we did 227, and that has helped a lot. My philosophy is prevention, so that we don't end up in lawsuits. And I think we have done well. I think the departments do trust us and do know that they can get their projects done within the guidelines and under the law. One of my duties, basically my office is created by the Constitution, but my duties are set out by statute. And one of my duties is to represent women and men or the elderly that have been abused, and through protective orders, to pursue protective orders, so that we do have a collaboration with legal aid. The county does provide some money to legal aid, and they split it with us. They handle the protective orders Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and we do it on Thursday and Friday. However, they do have requirements in terms of indigency, and so if they don't qualify, then we step it up and we actually do those as well on those particular days. But this year we did 1,182, or at least we filed them. Like I said, we have done bail bonds. The CPS cases have increased. I think Judge McCoy had been talking about that, and obviously it's pretty much the main thing out there is neglect, and it's usually tied into drug abuse. So we see a lot of that. So we have actual cases, 276. Public information requests, all the departments get those requests, and obviously they send them to us, and we handle them on their behalf. They're very time-consuming. They're not difficult to pursue, but they're very time consuming. So we've done 269 of those requests that we have to prepare a brief and send it up to the AG. So it's pretty intense. We also are responsible for pursuing and helping applicants pursue mental commitments of their loved ones. And we have 30 we did 30 cases. The number has gone down. Claims, we get claims and lawsuits. We only have 10 pending, and we have disposed. A lot of the cases, whether they're claims or lawsuits, are handled in-house. We handle those, especially if they're pro se or not pro se, but we handle them unless there's some specialty involved, or if there's a conflict of interest of some sort. And in those situations, I do seek the help of outside counsel, and basically I hire. We have been pretty lucky. The numbers have really gone down a lot, and so that has helped us a lot. And you can see, what we have left in terms of the lawsuits. In looking at the actual breakdown of the different salaries, we took several counties, like for example, Bell and Brazoria, Corpus Christi, Galveston. All of those are kind of close in population to Nueces County, and all of them are higher than what we pay at an entry level. And so we took, unfortunately, this is the first year or the second year that we handle paperless. And I had to have the help of Lisa Davis to come to our office and help us actually, match which one we were supposed to get, because there's pay schedules that they follow, and obviously we try to match as close as possible to those pay schedules. And so the bottom line is that we're asking for salary increases to help us recruit people, to get them on board, and also retain them. We have 3, obviously, that are attorney twos that have been with me for a long time, basically out of loyalty. And they're experienced lawyers. They've got 11 years, 14 years. I want to keep them. And this is an investment for the court, for the county, because we do handle a lot, and Judge Canales realized that as well.
I do.
That we handle a lot, and we make it very easy, and partly because we have experienced lawyers, and that's what you need to move those cases, to move those projects. And I try my very best to, I don't complain, but it's time now. I'm having trouble hiring now. It's come to a head. So that's all I'm asking. I don't need capital improvement. I don't need anything. We're okay in everything else.
I was just about to ask you, I just want to triple check. I see absolutely nothing for any of the, what I'm going to call 5150s, all the under employee benefits, not employee benefits, all the no, it's not just 5150, everything under 5150. So no increases, no decreases, just keep me where you had me.
Fine.
Okay.
Are you saying the base pay should be set about 75,000?
I think that's how we figured it out, and I forgive me, but I did not write it down because we were trying to match it with the pay scale, and
But do you think that 75,000 at base pay, entry level would be good?
I think we did 75,000. Did we, Lisa?
See what low does it?
Attorney two.
But the bottom line is you can get all the changes you want
299.
for
For 102.
for 102,000.
914.
69.9 for the base.
69.9 for the base, okay.
Do you have any assistants in there other than the lawyers?
That's it.
Well,
We have the legal secretaries, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And they I give them a part of the supplement as well because they work hard too.
How many do you have in there?
Paralegals,
Tell you in just a second.
reception.
he's asking.
There's a total of 18 employees in the county attorney's office. There's 5 legal secretary, 1 positions, 1 paralegal, and 1 administrative secretary, 2.
Yeah, that's normal.
7.
7. So we're a small little firm.
So you have 11 attorneys and then 7 of those. What's their pay scale?
The secretaries, I don't have that.
The administrative secretary right now is at $34,009, their current pay schedule. The paralegals at $32,500, and the legal secretaries right now, the starting pay for legal secretary is $29,500.
Okay, thank you.
Dale, last year on the salaries, everyone received an increase, did we?
Last year, yes.
Except for Commissioners Court, I think we all
Right.
voted to
There was,
exclude ourselves.
Court and two other elected officials decided to waive their 2% cost of living, but everybody else got their increase, yes.
That's not keeping up with the
No,
standards.
no.
At all.
Well, I'm having trouble now hiring. I've never had that before. Now it's really difficult getting some people involved, you know.
2
to
vacancies?
apply.
How many vacancies?
3. Well, right now I have 2, but one is going to take office
And
July.
I'm going to say something for you. I need, I hate to say this, but the county judge's office needs you to be at maximum capacity. We have a tremendous amount of litigation that we are dealing with. And it is not your fault. You are as responsive as, sometimes you're so responsive, by the time I finish typing, I've got my answer, you know, on the other side. But this is the office that the county commissioner's court needs most of all. And I'm not certain that I really even understood how much you and I, you know, are connected at the hip with all of the different issues. And that's just, you know, way, way beyond agenda items. And as this county grows and the challenges, I'm worried about not having your office at maximum capacity, because I feel it. There are contracts, I hate to say this, I'm waiting on right now, and I can push you, but I can't push if there's nobody home, right? There's nobody there to actually help you do that work. So you need to be at budgeted capacity. No matter what we do, we've got to make certain that your office is filled. But and I'm okay with some baby lawyers because they're hungrier than older lawyers, I'll be honest with you. I understand what you mean about experience, but I think that one of the things we ought to be doing at the district attorney's office and this office is we ought to be recruiting right out of law school. Maybe they don't have the same, you don't give them the same workload, but I'll tell you, and I believe this, you're never as smart as the day you graduate from law school because your law is pure at that moment. Your head is full. You may not know your in and way around the courtroom, but you're not courtroom lawyers. That's not what you do. You do not go to litigate. You try to, what you said perfectly, prevent litigation, which means you've got to be an ace researcher. And so I want to encourage us to continue our wisdom with experience. But at these salaries, we ought to be able to go to Baylor, which has the best practice court in the state, and recruit some young lawyers to come who want to cut their teeth and then send them on their way. That's how New York does it. It's how Harris County does it. They make them pledge 2 to 3 years so that they can stay, right? Not just use you and leave you, but at least get them to where they're researching for you all day long, because that's what we need. And
Unfortunately, what I'm seeing now with the millennials, they're not sticking around.
no,
And pretty much I'm investing and then they leave. And with my department or office, I can't afford that because I need them now. And I work too. I'm not just like an elected
Yeah.
official. I actually am a lawyer and work
In the
just
office.
along with everybody else. Yeah.
You know, of course, Judge, you know, you're waiting for a lot of things, so are we, you know, because she's working a lot of, every time we have a contract, she goes to her office, and I'm waiting on 2 of them right now. So, but it's, you know, everybody's pushing from all different sides.
right.
So, I agree, I think you should be full staff, but that's why I was asking you, 75,000 base pay would be a good base pay, so.
But I think she asked for 69.9 because she has so many experienced people. Is that really why you did it, or what do you think?
We were trying to match it as close to the.
The classification.
the
We were
pay
trying
scale.
to fit it on the pay scale.
I see.
And so that we were able to keep everybody in line with each other and keep the steps the same equidistance apart, so that there truly was the separation between the three reclassification.
That
Yeah,
makes sense.
between the attorney twos and the attorney threes, because she currently has one attorney three and she's asking for three.
Yeah, they'll.
Three, yes.
I'm with you.
No, there's three more that you're asking for. You're asking for,
There's only one, and
Three
I
vacants.
want to convert 2 attorney twos to attorney threes.
Plus one, you got one,
So it'll be 3.
two there and
Total.
one right here.
Yeah, that'll be total of 3.
Four,
So there'll be a total of four.
No,
'Cause
3. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. 4. It's 4. Yes. You're right.
Okay, but either way, for 100,000, you would have a happy office and
Yes.
possibly a full office. That's the bottom line.
102,000.
102,000, correct.
Yes.
Are there any other questions for Lauda?
Get my projects done.
Thank you for all the work you do. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Your help is truly appreciated. If there's no other questions,
Go to work.
all right.
thank you so much. Yes. I need just a 2-minute break as we transfer to Kevin.
Good morning.
Morning.
Is this on? Okay, there we go. I want to just follow back up to what Lotta was saying earlier. My office relies on her office tremendously as well, especially when we're dealing with tax issues and things of that nature. And I can tell you with the contracts and so forth, and between all the litigation and issues coming through, that our office has been working hand in hand with her, and it's always greatly appreciated to have that support. And anytime that we have a contract come up, I always have them take a look at it. And we had a recent contract issue that came up that we discovered some other issues on that we really needed to go back and fix. So they've been a tremendous asset to us, and I appreciate the working relationship we've had with their office. I'm going to keep this short and sweet because we don't have a whole lot of additions, but I'm going to kind of go through what we're looking at, just so everybody knows and understands where these budget items for judges, since you're new to this. And the postage and the postage increase, that's a biennial increase. It floats along with the voter registration cards and everything that comes out on the election cycles. I don't know that we typically don't use all the postage in our non election cycle years, but we certainly use it during our election cycles, and that increase is based on the anticipated additional expense of not only newly registered voters and the increase we've had there, but also just increases in postage, because as the county grows, so does the expense on our tax bills and additional tax bills that go out. So that's all part of that. The non-capital outlay, I think we're going to be able to pull some of that out of the current budget year. I was just speaking with Lisa and Dale on that, and so that may reduce. It's just for some safes that need to be replaced and repaired. So obviously we want to keep our cash secure. Going on down to computer software maintenance, that item is just an anticipated increase on the expense that we have for our RTL, which processes all of our payments. And so it's just it's a contract that we have with them, and fortunately we own that equipment now. It was $100,000. We paid it off last year for the first, and so that is just the software alone, and it's working wonderfully, so it does not need to be replaced, and going well. We also have an additional $2,000 to that because as we changed our what we call it, the Armor Courier contract, we're now going to be check 21ing all of our checks that are being done out of our remote locations. So we will no longer be sending those in through the courier service, but they will be electronically deposited through our RTL system and captured remotely and electronically from those areas, because the current contract wouldn't take responsibility for any lost checks that they had, and that's just a risk I don't want to take. So we're going to just jump up to the 21st century and start remote capturing those and sending those on up electronically through Check 21.
I would just make sure they know the 5311, that's currently 27 needs a $2,000 increase.
A $2,000 increase on
That'd
top
be
of what's
40
on there. So it's going to be 4627 on that line item. And the other services, and let's see, that has to do with the,
I'm sorry.
46,000?
Yeah, go ahead and say it again, I think.
that's going to be 4,627.
On the 5311 that he's talking about computer services, there's another service that he's currently had that has a 2,627, but the Check 21 is an additional 2,000. So his total request for 5311 will need to be increased to 4627.
That change will be in the shared drive whenever y'all leave here.
Well, you can just change it at the bottom, right, to 28,207.
Yes.
Okay.
And going to the other services and charges, that $13,000, that is for printing of the voter registration certificates. That's that item comes up one year and then drops the next, so it's just it's a hard cost increase. And then the last thing I'm requesting is extra personnel, which isn't on this. Last year we were,
Kevin, are
Yes.
we getting is there anything cool happening on that? I mean, are we going to go to, I've got my voter card here from now on. I mean, we got to be trending away from paper at some point. What are they looking at?
well, I don't know how that system works because that's on the election side.
I see.
Right now, the current law is we have to issue those out.
Yeah.
As is, and until that election code gets changed to where you can go electronic, the online voter registration, that's long overdue. We've
haven't gotten there yet.
we just, as the state has not gotten there yet.
Just checking.
We're one of 37. There's 37 states that have online voter
Right, I
registration, and
thought maybe.
we're one of the
Okay, just
13
checking.
that don't. So
Okay.
one of these days we'll get there. And then the increase I'm requesting, we had a cut last year on personnel, and we were able to, and we had to actually move an FTE over because it was an off year in voter registration because of increases in Robstown volume, and I needed to add another FTE out there. We moved that person out to Robstown, so we now have 5 people in Robstown versus 4 that we had in the past. And it's also to help cover shortages when Nellie is out of Bishop. It makes it easier for us to send somebody over to the Bishop office to cover. But this is a presidential year, and I need that additional FTE back so we can handle the voter registration volume. A lot of voter registrars have almost twice the personnel we use. We've traditionally been using temps, and that's been working very, very well, and so I don't see the reason to keep people there year-round when we don't need them. But we definitely need an additional FTE out there to handle the volumes of that we're going to be seeing this upcoming year in voter registration. 2 is bare bones minimum, and then when one person's out, then we got to send somebody out of tax or somebody out of motor vehicle, which we're also short because that person that we cut actually came out of the tax office, and we transferred them to voter registration, and we transferred them out over to Robstown because of the volume. So it just kind of trickled on over, and we really need to get that third person full-time back in voter registration, and that's what that request is for.
So you're asking for one person only?
Only asking for 1 additional. And that's all I have.
Kevin, I just want to go on record saying that if you look at any of the budgets over the last 2 years and look at the numbers, and maybe there are other departments, but yours is one of the top, if not the top, in the county as far as what you were expected or requested to do as far as cuts. You went way above and beyond what you were requested to do last year.
Yeah.
And to me, that speaks volumes. And so if you're asking for 1 staff member, that to me should be a given because you saved this county a lot of money last year, over $500,000, almost $700,000 from the previous budget to the current budget cycle that we're in now. And you're still way beyond year to date. And I don't know how fast you may catch up $1 million in the last quarter of the year, but I doubt it. So you're going to still come well beyond that.
We've had a ton of
Well,
people.
below
out
that,
on
I'm sorry.
We've had a ton of people out on FMLA, and so that certainly has really hurts us. I have 67 employees, and the FMLA has killed us this year. I've got one employee.
Well, I still think that you're doing great in what you requested last year. I mean, you came down from the previous year, from 17-18 to the 18-19 budget. You submitted a budget that was about almost $700,000 less.
What was your secret, Kevin? You did
It
something.
it was really, that budget was because of,
I know, but you had some major, you don't get that way because you're taking 10% off on expenses.
well, no,
What
it's
did you
it really has to do with the vacancies that we had.
Right, this is all personnel. It
Yeah.
has to be. Otherwise, you don't get those numbers.
Yeah. And I want to say it was around, what we proposed was around 75,000, but the actual savings, because of all the personnel that we were missing throughout the year, was about 700, was that number that you're looking at.
You requested that, that's
Yeah,
what was budgeted.
yeah.
So you knew that already?
Well, no, it just happened.
Yeah.
I wish I could take credit for that, but it
But I'm
was,
saying what you requested on the budget was,
well, we
less
had some things that paid off. We had some things that dropped off and we didn't replace. And we also voluntarily cut some items, and then we had to cut again, and we didn't get credit for it last year. So it was pretty tight, and we really have to get, I shared I bring more in, and we actually, we bring a lot of revenue in. And I'm not talking tax. I'm talking actual revenue that actually covers our offices. The sales tax commission that we got this past year from the state of Texas, just for motor vehicle sales tax alone, was $3.2 million, and that is enough to run my entire department. That's not even taking into consideration the fees we get from everything else that we bring in, and I'm talking fee income, not property tax. And so we get enough to operate our entire budget just off of that alone. And then plus the income we get from TXDMV, from TABC, from the offset we get for the property taxes, we bring in about 2.5 times what we spend.
and let me ask another question, kind of not necessarily related to budget, but I was having a conversation on escrow yesterday. Is there something that needs to be changed on the state level that would allow a person to come in and pay monthly rather than have to pay it all lump sum by the end of the year?
If we did that, we would have to increase staff.
Okay.
Because the concern I have, currently you are allowed to do escrow, but it's something that somebody can do on their own through their own bank. And I really recommend that because they can put it in their own savings or in their own interest and then pay us. And I usually try to coach people to do that. I don't like money sitting around unapplied because that's where I'm personally liable for every dollar that comes in. And until that's applied to a tax and paid, my tail end's on the line. And so until it's actually deposited and paid towards that, I have personal liability for every single one of those dollars, and I'm not real crazy about that. We bring in about $750 million every year, and I'm only bonded for 100,000 of that. And so that's the reason why I'm not real crazy about us taking on a banking function and being an escrow agent for the
DMV.
community.
Good enough for me, thank you.
Yeah, and I do think you walk on water, but I just want to double check here. Your budget was only, as you suggested, 75,000 less. It's your year-to-date that's off by 700, which is
That's correct.
attrition. So John, just double
I
check
don't know.
that. It's not like
doesn't
he,
look like the sheet that was given to me, because it says budget 18-19 was 3,300,000, am I not right? Am I looking at the wrong sheet that Teresa gave us? So
Yeah,
that's
it
what was
was around-
submitted last year, am I right?
It was around 75,000 less.
Current year's budget. That's this year's budget, 18-19, the 3.3
Was that the number submitted
budget. That's the budget that we're in right now.
that we're living with, or that was submitted?
that
That's
we're
our
living,
current budget, 18-19, that's this year's budget.
Is that what was, let me ask, was that what was requested by Mr. Kieschnick?
No, he only requested an increase of 26,207.
Where's that in the sheet that you gave me?
Here, let
Come
me
on,
see.
come on over, please. These numbers.
We didn't,
don't- listen,
we
please,
didn't, we didn't submit a
Come on.
budget
Yeah,
$700,000.
there would
Let's
never,
not-
I mean,
wouldn't
I was
be able
gonna
to-
say,
So
if
that's what I'm wondering about, because
But any savings that we
These
had.
numbers, I gotta get
Yeah.
a better clarification.
Yeah,
So,
because the savings that we had was
No,
based
what's that?
on,
Look at that column.
This is the budget. This is our current year budget right here. So he's requesting the 26K.
No. Look at that number and look at the previous year's numbers.
17, 18.
That's
Last
what
year's
was
actual.
spent,
Last year's actual.
and that's what was actually spent.
No, this is the budget number, and this is what he actually spent last year because of these accrued claims.
So
That
this is the
right
number
there.
that we have for the year.
Year-to-date.
That's his budget. Did he
Yes.
submit it?
Right, no, this is the current budget that was passed that we're in right now. This is his year-to-date,
Kevin, how many do you have under 30,000?
How much has been spent?
year-to-date, yes, sir.
So where did we get this number from?
I'd have to go back and look. I want to say most of ours are around,
Last year.
Yes, sir.
hang on,
That's
let me
what
look.
I'm saying. The previous year and this year are what
Yes,
is
sir.
the $700,000 difference?
30,000?
And that's
I have a couple of part-times, which we wouldn't count those.
Well, you have 31 senior clerks, and most of your senior clerks are below 30 of your, that is about
Okay, so but
10 above it, so I would say you'd have 20 employees
This is
below 30.
$700,000. That's what I was asking.
And that's too many.
Was this what was submitted by him?
That's what we need to work on, really.
No.
Submitted by him, right?
That's,
And
This is what he actually spent,
yeah.
so we're over.
This was last year's budget, 2017-18, and the 750 is what was
I
accrued, right?
understand that.
Okay, so this is our current year budget that we're in right now.
Okay, who came up with that?
This is what was approved. This is what y'all
By
approved
us.
for 18-19, yes, sir.
And that's what was spent. So
It's
that's what I'm
actual
saying. There's an
last
actual $700,000 difference.
Right, which is the accrued claims.
But this is
that-
what we approved last year, or roughly this time last year.
That's correct.
So, am I not right what I'm saying?
But it's from attrition.
it's from attrition.
It's from attrition. It's not dollars that are actually.
I'm just trying to compare.
not budgeted,
If
but-
I don't have the right numbers, is
Right.
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Look,
and-
I want to know what was submitted last year,
Right.
what we approved last year, which was 3,350,000.
Mhm.
Was?
Yeah, and it was about $75,000 cut from what was, we did about 75,000 and most from what was requested.
Yeah, that's what.
But the savings-
I don't know why we wouldn't have the budget at numbers
I'm-
on there.
The budget for 17-18.
Why wouldn't we have that in?
Lisa's got this.
I have the budget packet from last year. He requested a
Just make sure that these sheets have that also. Because that's how I can only measure what was submitted one year to the other. I don't care what the actual was. I mean, that's important to have as well. But what was submitted by each department head or elected official, that's what's important to me. I want to see, I need to match that.
Yeah.
I need to see where's the drop, what did Mr. Keeshnick ask for last year's budget, the year before, and to see how those match, so I can get a pattern, because this does not really necessarily reflect a pattern to me.
But I don't
doesn't.
understand. Let's talk about it offline.
Okay?
To be honest with you, I hear and understand what you're saying, but the only thing that matters is year-to-date.
No, what
and-
matters to me is
and budget to actual.
what people are asking for is to show the pattern of what they've asked for and what they've submitted. That makes a difference to me.
Yeah, but
When
he would
department
never
heads-
ask for $700,000. I mean, he'd be, I'd write him out of town if he asked for that.
I could not
I
I
function.
mean, he couldn't be able to do that. The only reason that existed, so the difference is,
We've had a tremendous number of
Yeah,
personnel
I get that,
outages
I
this
get
year.
that. I'm just saying what was submitted.
And
Because
it-
I want to see a pattern of what's being asked here. Because we have continually, department after department, asking and requesting more and more from one year to the next, and I don't see that.
Mm-hmm.
Then I can't get, hey, you know what? You got to get a grip on your budget, period.
We need the comparison.
That's important to me. We need
but,
that comparison.
but you do realize that, I mean, this entire county had a budget cut of 10% department-wide,
1.2.
1.25 across the board in every department, not once but twice.
I know that.
So, I mean, there was no,
But most
I don't know how they could have asked when they didn't get
of it
anything.
came out of, didn't come out of salaries, came out of supplies and came out of,
That's
Ours-
incorrect. For Kevin Keeshnick, he took it out of salaries. He cut the position that
Yeah.
he's requesting back.
he did because that's what he wanted to do, because.
Yes.
We didn't have 1.5% in supplies, otherwise we'd be not mailing out, we'd have to decide who gets tax bills and who doesn't.
and it was cut.
We don't have a lot of fluff in our supply
He had
bill.
the luxury, 'cause he had absences, so.
So for last budget year, he requested a cut to postage because that was a non-election year. And so for the non-election year, he cut his postage. He also, like he said, finished paying off of his capital equipment. And so those leases were no longer there. So he requested a reduction of 73,000. Then he had to do a 1.25% decrease on top of the newly revised request last year. And since he had already taken off those two areas, that wasn't included in the 1.25, but he also couldn't apply credit for what he had already cut from his budget. So for him to be able to pull out the 1.25, the only way he could feasibly do that is by cutting a position. And that's what he made the difficult decision to do. And now he's requesting that position.
Judge, I think we're all saying.
Did I adequately say
Yeah,
that?
we are. I just don't think this spreadsheet's going to have it, but you can ask the department head to do it.
Well, I think that Teresa should have that information, and we can just add that column.
We can do
If
it.
you have that information.
We can do it.
But just
We'll get it
remember,
done.
expenses are going to vary, so if you see it as, it could be an election year, you're going to have to remember that he requested that because of a nexus to something. Maybe salaries is where you really ought to look, or equipment.
That doesn't matter to me. I just want to be able to compare. And I know that we asked everybody to make a cut. I was here, we voted on it. Last year was a very tough year. Appreciate the sacrifices everyone made. I just want to see, and this is not to say, oh, you're asking for too much. To me, it's to say, here's that pattern again that we see. There's an ask and increase in salary, and we still haven't been able to hit that. So I think it helps us justify, and the department heads, elected officials justify as well. Doesn't make it seem like it's just something overnight that's come up.
Well, one of the things this also points out, though, is you can see that where the big savings is obviously is personnel with the number of people we've had out. So when we see longer lines or we hear people complaining, that's a big part of it, because you look at $700,000 less, or more or less, I don't really know what the exact number is where we're off, but we've had a lot of people out. And when we have people out, that affects services and it affects the wait times that people have, and then being down an employee hasn't helped. And then we've also had to rearrange because increased in volume out in the west side of the county, which is a good thing. We want to be able to help and serve people out there, so we moved people around and did what we had to do, but we really need to get that spot back.
Thank you.
How many employees do you say you had?
67.
Okay, thanks.
Well, Kevin, is there any more?
We have 61, but we have some part-times and then temps, so it comes out to around 67.
Right, so what I'm doing is I'm doing a running track per day of what the ask is for your department. I have, but I'd like to confirm with Lisa and Dale, I have $33,922 for additional salary and benefits, and $28,207 for what I'm considering increased expenses throughout the department, for a total of $62,129.
That'd be correct.
That is correct.
Yeah, and I'm keeping a running total, just so you guys know, per day, including the if there's savings. So like I know what yesterday was, and now I'm gonna be able to figure out what today is.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. And I'll have the revised packets in your shared drive after
Okay.
this meeting.
And we've never had an overage in salary, so as you can see, we usually come.
Say that again. for
We've
the
never
record.
had a end-of-year overage in salary, so not even close, so.
Good job, man, appreciate it.
Right. Okay, well, thank you, Kevin, very, very much.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate
Appreciate it,
working with all of you.
appreciate it. Give us just a second, audience. I need to transition from tax to DA. Give me just a moment to make my final notes. Absolutely.
Presentation.
Okay.
that okay?
Yeah, on this,
Yeah, on this sheet, they do. I do too. That's how we do our business, yeah.
Well, I'm not sure how, but we've done a great job on time. So somehow I know I'm going to need a deep breath, so I'm going to go ahead and take one. It's nice to see everybody, though. Matt, who's going to take lead on this? Oh, Mark, good morning.
Good morning, Judge.
You want to take lead?
If I may, I'll make some brief remarks.
Absolutely.
My highly skilled
Staff.
to do the heavy lifting, and then I'll close. If
That's
okay.
good. And Mark, just so you know, the way we've been doing it is definitely make your remarks, and then we kind of go through the packet. I ask that you might highlight where we have variances, or your staff to highlight where we have variances, and then give us a chance to digest and then ask questions. And then it's very, very informal, so don't worry.
And so I know you said that you've been good on time, so I hope we don't break your heart this morning. 'Cause,
No, 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 no.
We have like 40 slides.
I am wondering who's minding, the children, but I suppose there is somebody upstairs, but no, obviously, it obviously matters, and that's why you're here. So, as they say, duly noted, I see all of you. Yeah, let's just start off and, let's take the easy stuff first on on what I'm considering, all of the bulk of the expenses of the office. I'm also going to take advantage that I don't have to make any phone calls since everybody is here, non-budget related. Somebody get in charge of calling my office. I want to brief you all on a meeting that's going to happen on jail diversion program, whoever wants to take it. And I want you guys to send a rep or come with me and talk behavioral health, because I think it'll impact your office. And I've been meaning to call you all week, and I hadn't had a chance, so. Oh, you did? Good job. Okay, appreciate that. And whenever you guys are ready. Yeah, absolutely.
Good morning.
Good morning.
May it please the court.
It does, thank you.
I stand before you today as elected district attorney, and I hope not to get run out of town, but I'm going to be asking for an increase of about over $500,000. And as I sat here and we've prepared, we're advocates here, many, to be a lawyer at least in the state of Texas, you have to get a bachelor's degree, then you have to get a law degree, then you have to pass the bar, and for some it takes more than one time, as myself. But as I sit here, I said, we were getting together and we're thinking, how can we ask the Commissioner's Court for this amount of money? What can we say to them? That way they can say, you know what, this is justified. And so as I do, and every time I speak to somebody, I say, you know what, I go to YouTube. And I try to, how can I get more money? Joel Osteen came up. And he said, when you're asking God for something, you ask big and you ask direct. You give him specifics. You don't say, I just want to get a little bit better. You ask him, I want to receive these blessings.
I knew God was a woman. I just knew it.
I would agree, Judge. And he says, when you ask God for something, and here we're going to ask you, you pretend it's your birthday because you feel bold when it's your birthday, right? You may stay out a little bit later. You may ask for dessert, whether it's in breakfast, lunch, or dinner, but you're bold, and that's what we're doing today. And as I listened to Joel Osteen for 27 minutes and 32 seconds, he spoke a lot about how, when you ask for something and you receive it, that gift is given to you so that way you can give back to the people you serve, whether it's in any profession, whether you're a barber, whether you're the famous barber or a doctor, you become famous and gain riches so that way you can help people. And so I thought, what better analogy here is to be bold. And I continue to see many videos, and I got lost on some of the holes that YouTube takes you. You click on one, and before you know it, you're somewhere very, very far away from where you originated. But I also saw one video where it said there are 3 ways to ask for money. But one of the main statements that I want to bring to your attention that this lady said, and I forgive me for not knowing her name, but she said money is a mechanism for fair exchange. And I will tell you for far too long that this office has not had that fair exchange. Everyone that you see here in my office, and the job that we have to do is very important. I don't sitting on this court will say, you know what, we want a subpar district attorney's office. We want lawyers that are okay. Everyone on this commissioner's court would agree with me as well as the citizens is when it comes to first responders, whether it comes to basic needs, the DA's office is one of those. And so as you sit here, I want you to think about the fair exchange that we're proposing. And we're not trying to be excessive. All we want is fairness and what we're asking for. And I would tell you that these slides that are coming before you will be presented in a way, hopefully, to sway you, because that's what we do. We're lawyers. And I would say that we have some of the best and brightest attorneys that sit in our office, some of the best and brightest investigators who work tirelessly and go far and above to make sure that justice is ensured. And not only that, but some of the people who do the most heavy lifting, who don't have, have to wear suits and go up to court and have titles, but are administrators. Some of the hardest working people who work 2 or 3 jobs just to be sure to put food on the table, but they continue to work here because they love working at the DA's office. And so when you're looking at these slides, and you have to realize, I want you to take all those things into consideration. Please ask questions, and if you need a reason to give us that money, we'll I promise you we will give you those reasons. And so I'm going to call up who's going first. Kathy Mills, who's kind of she does a lot of stuff at the office, but today here she's hopefully going to convince you guys to show us the money, as they did say in, what movie was that?
Jerry Maguire.
Jerry Maguire. Show me the money.
So I wanted to start off by sharing with y'all, and good morning to the commissioners and judge, some of our goals. I was talking to one of our staff, and I said, tell me if you think this is too cheesy to go here, but I'm going to go here. I memorized the preamble to our Constitution when I was probably 8 years old. And it goes, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, and then we lay out what we wanted in a country. And the very first thing we mentioned was to establish justice. That's what we do here. That's our goal. That's the number one goal of the government. When we founded the United States, that's what we were trying to do. So I implore on each of you to understand that these monies that we're requesting, they're not from Mark Gonzalez, Kathy Mills, Matt Manning. They are for the justice system. They are for the administration of justice. I know that that's not specifically the title we fall under, but I know that y'all understand our role in that system. You can see here our goals, obviously, pursue justice, protect our citizens and property. We need to serve our citizens. But I do want to start, and Judge, I know you'll appreciate this, as any good business leader would do. When you make your budget for next year, you start with your current budget. So when I took over this office in January, I've been monitoring the budget weekly. I want to thank the auditor's office for continuously keeping me informed, educating me on the county system. Lisa particularly makes sure that we're in line and that we stay in line with our budget. But I want you to know that our current budget, the way I look at it, it looks pretty good. We do have some numbers that are anomalies, and I can explain those. So you'll see that we're very, very low this year in telephone and utilities and maintenance and repair of vehicles. We're riding at just 30%. I think the plan there was to obtain some cell phones that we have yet to do, but that is on the plan for next year. I've been encouraged by numerous county officials to get those cell phones, so I'm not asking for a change there. I would like it to remain despite the fact that we're very below that number this year. Maintenance and repair of vehicles, as y'all know, We probably would have eaten that up had y'all not approved our recent vehicle exchange. So it's important to keep that number, and I know the county is looking at other alternatives for vehicles, and we're excited about those alternatives as well, and we'll be on board with the county for those. But I do ask those numbers to stay the same. You'll also see that other services and charges is very low right now. It's at 36%. That will almost be eaten up with our book subscriptions that come around and our legislative updates that come around. Now that the legislature is over, we do purchase a lot at the end of the year in that category. Otherwise, when you look at everything, we're pretty much in line. So when we're asking for a change in our operating budget, it's nominal. Nominal for our budget, I'll say, not other budgets. We're asking for an increase of $5,000, mostly to be prepared in the instance that someone who's carrying a large amount of comp time leaves our office. And if that happens, we do need to pay that comp time. Now, we are implementing, beginning October 1, comp policies to help regulate those numbers and get our spending better under control and how people obtain and use their comp time. But outside of those overtime and temporaries, I think you'll agree that our budget is pretty right on, so we're not asking for a big change. And I know that the suggestion is always go on your current budget and add 10%. But the fact is, and I've heard Ms. Vaughn say this several times, we need to focus on our spending better. Every single person in this office will tell you, my first answer for a request to purchase something is usually no, unless they demonstrate a good cause. So we're not filling up our supply closet. We are not buying things we don't need. We are being very conscientious with our spending. And so I believe with our current budget, slight increase to compensate for, and we won't use it if we don't need it, and you see us do that everywhere across the board. But that's where we're asking for the increases in the $5,000 and $3520. We are asking for increases. It's a $5,000 operating increase, Judge. I know you're tracking these numbers. And our non-capital and non-capital, and we'll cover these in a minute, we're requesting a $58,000 increase. And then obviously our largest increase in 3520 is personnel, which is $573,818. Our total increase in 3520 that we're requesting is approximately 11%. And I know y'all have been reminded so many times of the 10% cuts last year. You will see that we are operating our budget within those confines, and so we're going to continue to do that, but we desperately need this increase for our personnel. I will remind
Kathy, hang on one second. So just a little while ago, I just said that, and you all corrected.
It was not 10%, it was 1.25.
Okay. So I'm incorrect in my numbers, but I do know that there was a budget.
Don't worry, because for me, the number was always 10%, because in budget workshop, it was really conveyed. There was a lot of references to 10. I'm just telling you guys that it's not weird that she thought that and I thought that too. And I'm not sure why we got that. Dale, there's a.
I was really talking about 10% of certain things, and when we first come about with it, we said that we can. They said it looked like we could cut 10% and be fair. We go, well, to do it correctly, we need to do no more than 1, and then it got to 1.5.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure, because that's interesting that got repeated. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And nonetheless, then, that 1%, we're then just asking for that standard 10% that is suggested. So we are well within, we're being responsible while we're trying to get the correct payment for our personnel. You will remember that we have 2 other accounts in addition to 3520. We have 1323 and 1328. Those accounts are monies that we receive. We do seek commissioners' approval on the budget, but those are our accounts essentially. So I'm asking for the budget increases there because those accounts are adequately funded now, appropriately funded. We're monitoring them, and we're hopeful that they stay that way. And if they do, we intend to purchase the items listed in each, or spend money out of those accounts for different projects that we do, such as sponsoring phlebotomists for no refusal weekends. That's just important for our citizens. So you'll see those requests. So on 1323, we're asking for a $4,500 budget increase and a $31,000 increase in personnel expenses. And then in 1328, we're asking for a $20,000 increase in the operating budget and $11,557 in reclassifications. Those personnel requests, reclassification requests, simply just track what 3520 requests since we have personnel in those budgets. I'll remind you and ask that all approvals be done across the board on those accounts so that, of course, we maintain the same pay for a felony attorney one or an investigator, despite which account they're coming out of. So bear that in mind. So the way we're going to organize this presentation is we've divided it out between victim services, administrative, and then we go into our investigators and our attorneys. So that's going to be the general flow. So we're going to address victim services because I think it's been the hot button issue. It's been an area that needs a lot of attention, and I know that y'all have heard about our victim services department, but I want to point out that the year that Mark Gonzalez took office, the Caller-Times and other news sources did note the importance of our victim services. This is only to highlight the value to the community and the way that the community views this issue. It's a very important issue for our office as well as the community. Mark back then in 2017 said, they're obviously overworked, definitely underpaid, and I wish we had 4 or 5 of them because it's a very extraneous job according to the Caller-Times. But the point remained back then. And then y'all received testimony from a victim, and she said, if you'll recall, back in April, that, or actually it was before that we need at least 3, and that's her opinion. That's the public coming to talk to you, saying that we need 3. Additionally, commissioners commented during that testimony in that public forum that this is our most important constituency, is our victims. And so we need to be addressing that. We have fewer victim advocates than CCPD does, which makes no sense to me. So we need at least 3. I've got some statistics here. These came from the TDCAA, Director for Victim Services. Shortly after Shara joined, and actually before she joined, we requested the director to come down and meet with our office to help us get in line, to help us train appropriately our victim advocates. And she shared with me these numbers. I'd like to point out that we're at the bottom of all of these charts. So this is the number of felony courts that each of these counties have and the population that they have. And you can see that we have the least number of victim advocates per felony court, and that's actually a skewed number against our favor because we only have 1 victim assistance assigned to felony courts. We have 1 assigned to felony, 1 assigned to misdemeanor. That just doesn't make sense, so we're asking for an additional victim advocate. This number is the most astounding number because this is how much work we're actually doing in our office and how many attorneys we have per victim assistance coordinators. And you can see that 21 attorneys rely on 1 victim coordinator. And keep in mind that we have 1 misdemeanor victim assistant coordinator and 1 felony. And our goal is to add a felony victim assistance coordinator. Y'all, 21 prosecutors trying to track down, they are working with victims every single day. Not all 21, but a large number of them have victims in their court and need the assistance of the victim coordinator. Right now, I'd like to open up a brief comment from Ms. Shara Rodriguez, our victim assistance coordinator, if she's here. I'm going to see. Lisa, you might have to.
Hello, guys. Thank you so much for having me this morning. It will be brief because I actually am currently in the middle of a trial with a victim who needs me now. So I just wanted to kind of reiterate back when I first spoke with you guys back in March of 2019 about how I had a strong desire to come into this program and really build it. How I come with an army. I've got the Purple Door behind me, Corpus Christi Police Department behind me, different agencies that are assisting me in getting these victims the services they need, and how really I wanted to get my feet wet and see what was the foundation already, what was already established in this office. And I am completely flabbergasted. I am amazed by how hard all of these guys work in this office. All of them work tirelessly, multiple hours a week, past the 40 without a doubt. And it's just crazy how many of them are what they're getting paid, really. And when I'm working with them and I'm seeing the services that are required by the victims that they need, that they deserve absolutely with, in our community, these people need it, it put me in an awe. Like, how come we're so far behind? Like, why are we so far behind? Just coming over here, coming here to build the program, we opened up the position for the misdemeanor coordinator, and I was excited. I contacted everyone I knew who I knew would fit the position, And they were excited. They were like, yes, send me the information, let me apply. And then they would call me back and say, Shara, girl, you're going to have to get me lunch because what does this pay? Like, how are you even living off of this pay? I know you can't afford it. You have a daughter. How are you doing this? And I told them, guys, you have to have the passion I have. Like, you have to just see the big picture, see what we can build, see the 5-year, program, see what we can do with the grants, see what we can do with this administration. And they laughed. They said, there's just no way. That pay cut is ridiculous. I'm sorry. And I don't know how you're doing it, sweetheart, but there's just no way. And that came from people from the Purple Door, from the Corpus Christi Police Department, from other agencies as far as the Children's Advocacy Center. Like, there's just no way they could take a pay cut. And that's from nonprofit agencies. We're the county. We work for the city. We work for the people. So that was the first blow. Like, okay, that's okay, because we did find someone excellent. Her name is Jennifer Blackwell. She is a licensed professional counselor. She has that master's credentials. But the big thing that hit again was, how long can we keep her? Because she was already asking, like, are we going to build a counseling program in this agency? My ultimate goal is to be a therapist. What can you tell her? Like, we still need one more advocate. We still need 10 more advocates. We still need to build this program. I'm so sorry, but please stick with me because I can see the goal. I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. We just need to get there. We just need to convince our community that this program is needed in this Corpus Christi, Nueces County. And she told me, yes, Shara, I got you. I see it. I believe in it. But at the same time, I have to do what's best for my family. She has 2 children of her own and a husband that she's taking care of. Like, she has to do what she has to do, and that's completely understandable. So we're getting that talent. We're recruiting those people. But again, how long can we keep them? Same thing for the prosecutors. They are all excellent prosecutors, excellent people. And I've seen since I've been here 2 already leave because they're making $20,000 more in a different county. Which just, man, I want you to be here, but I completely understand where you're coming from. I myself took close to a $15,000 pay cut to come here. And though there's days that I work 12 hours and I think, okay, let me think. Like, was this, I know this is worth it because I love my community. My daughter's growing up in this community. I own a home in this community. But how much longer can I do this before I have to go get a second job as a server or, moonlighting somewhere? Who's going to watch my child at that time because I need to make ends meet as well just to feed her at night. And that's where I would come to you guys, that even though I am looking at all the corners, I've met with the grant managers on the 5th floor multiple times. There's actually 5 grants that we're applying for come January. There's 3 right now that are on the table. We're trying to get outrolled by the end of July. There's already one we applied for in 2-week span in April because we needed to do it. There was just no excuses for it. And we are absolutely, like, me and Maria, gosh, she's my bestie now. We are just like, what other grant can we get so we can build this program? But at the end of the day, we really need you guys on our side. This is, I'm not saying this is on you guys. I appreciate everything y'all do, but this ultimately, we need you guys to support our team. We need you guys to give us the tools we need to better provide services for victims so that we have a division. I know, Judge Canales, we have talked about that, a division, not just 3 advocates, not 2 advocates, a division so each prosecutor has the tool and the victim advocate that they need to get that victim who's afraid of the offender, who's going through domestic violence, who needs those resources. They need more assistance, and unfortunately, we just don't have those tools right now. And aside from working the 65 hours I'm already working every week, we need more people in a division. And I really hope that you guys listen to this and think about it. And ultimately, if you had a person in your family who was a victim, would you want them with the burnt-out victim advocate who's excellent at what she does, or would you want them with the tools and the resources they need so that they can move forward and heal from this in a better way?
Thank you, Shara. Shara points out an interesting point. How many of our staff work 2 jobs? And I know I heard Commissioner Gonzalez all week say our lowest paid in this county should make $30,000. I completely agree. Our secretaries make just slightly above that, the lowest. And the fact is they are skilled. They are legal secretaries. They are not clerks. They are legal secretaries. They are drafting judgments. They are working on criminal cases for us. They are skilled. So if that goal is to make the most entry-level job in this county have $30,000, then our secretaries should be above that. And so that's where you're going to see the increase of request for secretaries, and I'll address that in a minute. So I want to, each little section, we talk about what our actual needs are, what action we have taken. We're not coming to y'all off the cuff. We have done things to make this manageable. We're not asking for a director of victim services today because we're going to try and make it work with 3. But my guess is that we're probably going to be asking for a director or a supervisor over that division one day. I hope we don't. I hope we can run with 3. I hope we can make it work. That's our goal. We're incremental steps, right?
Let me interrupt just for
Yes,
a moment, Kathy. For the purposes of keeping us, mindful of which job applies to which department, why don't you call out for me those that would affect the presentation that Shara just gave, so that I can mark Shara by it, or an S? And I'm obviously thinking it's a victim witness coordinator.
Yes, Judge,
So
that's
that's
correct.
going to be an S.
That's correct, Judge.
What other?
Our victim division, all we're asking for is the victim witness coordinator. We're asking for one additional victim witness coordinator, and then you'll see halfway through the second page, there's 2 spots at 1901. That's just below criminal investigator. It says victim witness coordinator, and we're asking for both of those spots to go from a ridiculously low 19 classification to a 25 classification. When we did that, Lisa called me and she said, is this a mistake? Are y'all meaning to do this? Absolutely, we're meaning to do this. These
So
are,
victim witness coordinator 1901,
Yes, Judge.
2501,
yes, Judge.
and anything, and then the investigators as well?
The investigators will cover separately, Judge.
Okay.
So this is actually in 2 spots. It's also right in the middle of the page are the 2 that we currently have, and then way down at the bottom, you'll see the one additional one we're requesting.
I got it.
Okay. So what does our office need? We need faster, more efficient communication with victims. We need to provide effective resource referrals, because we're obviously not going to service all their needs, but we need to provide those referrals. And we need stronger restitution efforts. We've already requested a restitution analyst through a grant that I'm crossing my fingers that we get, so that we can do a better job of recouping restitution for our victims, our county, our property owners, our businesses, the insurance companies that operate down here. So that's what we need. What have we done? We've hired new VACs. We've gone out and specifically recruited people for these jobs that are uniquely talented. We've implemented a new contact protocol for our victims of domestic violence, and we're attempting immediate contact once we have the case in our office or know about an arrest. We are seeking grants for that restitution analyst and other things in our victim division, and we've received training from the TDCAA director to make sure that we're in compliance with the law and providing these this very important constituency with the appropriate services. So our requests include one more victim assistance coordinator and increased salaries for the 2 we have, and then equipment, which I'll cover in our capital outlay. Now we're going to move on to investigators and administrators. As I said before, we have primarily females, so that's an important thing. We know females don't get paid an equal pay. This is why. These are the statistics the Bureau of Labor is looking at. These are the things that they see. They see administrative staffs, we're full of females. And we need to make equal pay for these females. And we do have males in there as well. But it's important for us that we have equity of pay. They should have a living wage. They should not have to be working the special events at the American Bank Center. They should be able to attend one every now and then, not work all of them. So we have many working 2 jobs. Another important thing is their institutional knowledge. These secretaries, many of them have been with the county for 20, 25, and 30 years. They are absolutely, undoubtedly, the most valuable resource in the county. They will tell us what has worked and what hasn't worked. They will make it more efficient. They have. They will learn the new technologies. They will implement the new technologies with our current systems. They are incredibly valuable. They deserve more than what they have right now. Additionally, we're needing to recruit staff that has better technological skills. The more we advance technologically, the more skills they need, and we all know that those skills and those skills trainings cost money and cost time out of people's lives, so we're asking that they be compensated for that. We're also asking for a safer work environment. I'd like you to take a look at these pictures, and this is much better than the day Mark Gonzalez took office. Much better, much more organized. I know Angelica Hernandez tirelessly, again, you're going to hear that word a lot, walks around the office, I walk around the office, we move boxes, we put them in storage areas against walls, stacking them no more than 4 high if somebody's going to be walking by. This is as safe as we can make it without the filing cabinets that we need, but there is a request for filing cabinets. Some boxes, you will always come to, and you are welcome to come visit our office, of course, anytime. Some boxes are always going to be around. That's how we're processing paper files until we can get $100,000 to do our electronic file system, which we're not asking for right now. I saw you peek up. We're not asking for it today. We want to make what we have work the best it can right now. And so we need these filing cabinets. There's going to be boxes because files are moving and files are being processed and moved from court to court. But these boxes, they're being stored. They're not active case files moving around the office. We need those filing cabinets. All of our filing cabinets in the office are full.
We don't have filing cabinets?
I have looked around, Commissioner. I have looked around, and when we tried to order the big ones with the open face that are the best for the wear and tear of the files and the more accessible for our secretaries, they don't have any downstairs, and they have to be specially ordered.
So why don't we order them?
We'll put in a request, Judge. We'll be happy to. We also have technological deficiencies. These are large, expensive technological items. I gave you a picture of what's in our grand jury room right now. I don't know if y'all can see it, and I can't zoom in.
I actually wanted to throw that TV away when I went up there.
Now, Judge, in fairness, we do need the TV. It has a VCR on it, so we have to.
It's very heavy, and I know those of you that remember the case know what I'm talking about. That's a bad TV.
So we need better TVs, both in our grand jury room and our conference room for when we do briefings with the police department, when we do briefings with victims, when we're talking to defendants in there with an investigator and their defense attorney. We need the better technology, and we need it now. The Elmos that we have, I know you probably can't read it, but that little tag on there says it was received by a grant in 2001. That is 2 of 4 of our Elmos. The other one, I don't know when it came from, but it definitely doesn't work. I have tried every cord in that office. I have tried to make it work. It doesn't work. And our last working one, just this week alone, we loaned it to the visiting capital murder trial so they could have that equipment because obviously they needed the equipment, and we had another trial that needed it. So we're having to, do y'all need it right now? We're having to disrupt trials so that we can get the right equipment into the courtrooms.
One more time, have you ordered a TV?
I'm sorry?
Have you ordered a TV?
We have not ordered a TV yet. We want the budget to be there before, and so.
You have to do that, order it.
All right, Judge. Commissioner, of course. We also have bad screens for our projectors, and we piece those together every time. They're very old. They're very clunky. They're hard to get around. Again, unsafe as well. And we are maxing out our computer life. We have so many laptops, and I tried to pull the emails and the receipts. It was just too much. We have too many laptops where the batteries are bad now, and we have to keep it plugged in, which is very, very difficult in a courtroom to keep it plugged in when we need to move it around for a witness to see or the jury to see from our laptop. So those drivers are going bad. The drivers on our mouse pads are going bad, so now we're having to buy additional mouses or find old, dusty mouses, which we have in our closet, to plug in and use. So we do have technological deficiencies in our office. We're up and running, and we're using what we have to the best we can, but we are maxing out the computers right now. I think I've got 2 or 3. Our interns weren't even able to do computer-type projects because of the amount of computers.
I tell you what, I'm going to interrupt again. I'm going to ask and request that, Mark, you get a complete list of all resources that are technology-based and work with my office, and let me see if we can identify a courthouse funding source for that. You've got it, Kathy. I agree. This is ridiculous. And you guys need to have the most modern tools to be able to do your work more efficiently. And I actually noticed it when I was up there, and in the grand jury room in particular. And the other thing is believe it or not, I was at the law library yesterday because I got an interesting letter from the Bar Association who wants to give to the law library some interesting items. Just make it friendlier, make it nicer. Of course, it's completely welcome. But all that did was put a light bulb in my head that there is a funding source there. I bet if they were aware of some of these things, quite frankly, I'll sit on the old chair or the old couch. Let's have them divert their dollars to something that could be really more impactful or meaningful. I'm going to help you either through procurement to find the funding source, work with Dale. You're right, we're looking for a net budget of zero, but change orders are done all the time. But particularly when they're warranted and merited, everything you're showing us here, I don't see it a problem. It just needs to be identified, and then we need to find the right funding source, as long as it's connected. Go ahead, Dale.
I know our IT department's working on replacing the laptops with your tablets, because tablets are cheaper. So I know they're working on that, and again, funding sources, we'll need to do the process for it. But I know IT's working on that, so that's who we want to work with to get what y'all need.
And Judge, if I may suggest, the overall picture is that these Elmos that we use in trial are used by everyone in the courtroom, whether you're a defense attorney or whether you're the prosecutor. We don't say you can't use our equipment. We welcome them, and sometimes we use their equipment because theirs works. And so, and I would suggest that every district and county judge would feel the same way, where they want those things, because it's burdensome and tiresome for them to say, "Are you set up?" You know, I think every courtroom should at least be equipped with an Elmo and a way to present your case, whether you're the prosecutor or the defense attorney, or whether you're in civil practice. You know, there's a divorce going on. I think every courtroom should at least be equipped in that manner.
Can I ask something? I'm sitting here, I'm watching these pictures, and I think the county should be embarrassed that we've got a TV that looks like it came out of the 50s. But I think my question is this, you know, this is old stuff. In the past, because this has not come up, this is the first time I've seen this. In the past, have we not asked, and I disagree with Jag that you just go order it. I think you should budget for those things. You know what you're going to need for the next year, and I think you should budget for those things. I'm just amazed that this has gone on and nobody, I mean, there's been previous courts, previous DAs. Nothing has been said all these years, and we've accepted this. I'm just blown away. It scares me to think what else we're going to be looking at. But a question I want to ask, asset forfeiture money. Do y'all use that? What do y'all use that for?
Yes, so that's what you're seeing, the increase in the request. We're trying to budget. We did not have a budget in asset forfeiture this year. I'm not sure what happened. I wasn't the office administrator last year, but we didn't have a budget set. And I know we can do budget change orders, but we wanted to make sure that account was shored up and full and appropriate to be using. But you'll see now that we have a budget item in there, that we do anticipate using it. We do want to use it for the things, you know, that we need, that the commissioners can't approve, can't afford, or don't think are appropriate, that we feel like we need, then we plan on using it that way, yes. And you'll see us use
Curious
that.
to see how much it is and what you're going to use it for.
And I'm going to just make a comment, I won't say who, but I heard it said yesterday in my office from somebody very knowledgeable, we were trained not to ask. We were trained not to ask. Ideas are not welcome here. I need everybody to know in this room and everybody who's listening, it is a new day. I want every idea. I want every list. You let me figure out funding sources, whether they can or cannot happen, you know, collectively with the court. And I want to know about the most trivial things to the most important things. But I'm going to suggest something to you, and that is that, and I know it's hard because you're practicing law, you know, for the state of Texas. But it's you really going to be incumbent that you're like a law office that needs desperately a business manager. Because whether it's compensation studies or compensation comparisons or an old broken television or Elmos that don't work, you know, that's why all major law firms have a managing partner. And what we need is a managing partner to spend some of his or her time working with our court administrator, Tyner Little's office, my office, to help educate the court. Remember, I'm full-time just like all of you. These guys go out to their precincts and they have other work as well, but it's our job to educate all of them. So maybe that's something we can think of. I bet internally you kind of already do it. You know, Kathy kind of got the de facto business manager title in addition to everything else. But that's something that, if you know, it's not coming up for a reason. But anyway,
That's right, Judge.
enough said. But I think that we're recognizing that it's all coming to the forefront.
Right, Judge. And you'll recall that my position was created in December. It's the first of its type, the second assistant district attorney in charge of office administration. So this is a huge function of what I do, is making sure we have budgets, that we're in compliance, we have equipment. So this is my first round of doing this, and in 6 months I've been able to determine these things are the issue. And not just 6 months, I've been around for about 8 years. And I, too, used to sit and watch Mark Skirka fight for our budget, and it was a short presentation and hardly included information like this. No comment on him because he was trying to get our salaries, and that was the priority. But Judge, we have a lot of priorities, and that's why we're doing an overall presentation for all of those needs.
Well, Kathy, you remember when there was like $113,000, I think, of checks that weren't cashed?
Yes.
And I don't think it was just your office. There were some JP offices that had the same thing too, because I know Lucy Rubio's did. When that money came up, I know y'all have cashed them now.
Yes.
Was that money used for anything that could have helped your office and things like that?
I'm trying to find the investigator and the prosecutor here that fill those roles. Those are funding personnel positions in our office. So those were absolutely vital to keep those positions. So that's what they're funding right now.
Gail, do you know, can you help answer the commissioner's question?
If those were basically for the restitution from the city coming paying for our time to do this stuff, and it did go to, as if it was drug forfeiture fund, it went to 1328, which is where they currently have 2 employees that they fund out of that particular case. And right now that funding is about 120,000 plus a little bit more per year to fund this. So that's why some of the times we have a hard time with the asset forfeiture fund. And this is state forfeiture, this is not federal, this is state, where it depends on how much they receive in forfeiture. Sometimes it's hard. Some they have a very difficult year. Sometimes they have a great year. And with the interdiction they have right now, they're getting better. And so we're having more, because 2 or 3 years ago, we had 4 employees here, and now we only have 2. And right now, the amount of money we've bringing in barely pays the salary. So there's not a lot of room for any other additional costs there at the moment. But I know they're working real hard to improve that.
So did the 113 go for salaries? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
For which department?
1328, which is their asset forfeiture.
If I may add, we have 2 actual employees on staff where that asset forfeiture is budgeted to cover. So we have to tell our investigator, you need to make this amount of money or else these people lose their jobs. And so whenever we get some of those checks and we don't deposit them, or didn't deposit them, then those accounts are going low and people were in jeopardy of losing their jobs. So what we're trying to do is, now that everything's accounted for and everything's put into place, one of the risks that we're hoping that doesn't happen anymore is that these individuals are going to be able to maintain their employment with the office, because that's what can happen if obviously our interdiction doesn't meet that mark, which is, what did you say, about
$120,000 a year.
$120,000 a year. If we don't get that amount of money, that's what we have to get every year to maintain those 2 positions.
Good to know. Good to
The
know.
DA and I have been on very good communications this last few years, because we've been talking about the real low amount of forfeiture funds. Like, if we don't get money in, we have to do this, this, and this. But we had enough to pay for a certain amount of time, and they worked their butt off to do some stuff. And we found this money. We got to put it in there now, that covering the cost. So.
And so because of the interdiction, we are able to have 2 other positions that are not funded by the general budget.
Right.
And so that's one great thing that I am happy to report to you guys, that we have 2 funded positions because of actual illegal currency that's being taken off the streets going obviously to Mexico. Instead of drug dealers, we get 2 positions here in Nueces County.
And I just think it would be important for us to be able to see that, because that's important, what it went for. And I'm assuming there's no more checks in a drawer.
No.
We've
All of those accounting anomalies have been completely taken care of.
Thank you.
My staff has worked with the city to make sure everything's been accounted for, and it has been.
We all powwowed and got it corrected. And we also made some very good checks that needed to be put in place that have not been in check prior, to make sure that there's no inappropriate activity. So everything is good on those accounts. They're being deposited, funded adequately. But right now, they are primarily for those positions. Now, you see I've increased the budget there in hopes, crossing my fingers, that we can fund it adequately to make some purchases out of there. And that is our plan for the next year if the money is there. But we have to be, of course, physically responsible, making sure that it's funded for years in the future, not just every year try and make that salary. But it is our office's effort to utilize those resources fully as well, and I believe we're doing that.
That was my question. Thank you.
Okay, technological deficiencies. We're maxing out our computer life, so you'll see a request, and I've rolled it out over a 2-year program, 20 computers, with the iPads that Dale was mentioning, because they're a little less expensive. Some people don't love them, some people do, but we're going to do what's financially prudent and what's most mobile and technologically advanced, and so that's what we're requesting.
Now, one quick question on the one thing's causing the delay of the iPads is the iPads either have to have a air card, which is very expensive, or have Wi-Fi. And I know our IT department is currently working on getting Wi-Fi through the entire courthouse, but I know they're really focusing on the top 3 or 4 floors.
That's right. And so that's where we will be utilizing those iPads because they have to be tied to a computer somewhere. And so those computers are in our office and the iPads can go, and as long as that Wi-Fi is good upstairs, we can utilize those. So we're hoping to do that over the next 2 years. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt Manning. He will cover our investigators and our attorneys.
May it please the court, commissioners. Commissioner, I have an idea, or Judge, I have an idea. Pay each and every one of those people what they're worth. That's a simple
Hey,
idea.
that's my line.
Well, you said you like ideas, and if you know, I'd like to call myself the Chief Innovation Officer of our
No,
office.
I said those words at State of the County, and I meant them. And what you see me do and writing and doing this is I have ideas too. And, you know, this is not a one-way street here. Right now, the purpose of today is to learn. I want to emphasize that. It's not to make decisions. It's to learn. So, you know, I'm trying to learn about technology needs, capital outlay needs, expenses needs, and then, of course, the hard part, the salary needs. But if you don't think for 1 second that it all spinning in my head is that if we had the beds to put our federal prisoners in, okay, we'd have $500,000 in this county. It's hard for me not to be angry sitting in this chair right now. I'm mad that we can't do this for you.
And I understand the commissioners and the judge's commitment.
Yeah.
I don't mean in any way to imply.
Yeah, no, but I want you to hear it because it's not like we're not.
Like we're not hearing it.
Right, that's right. I wanted to make sure. It makes me angry that we don't have those beds, but make no mistake, I've got a plan to get us those beds because I don't know how we get to make your office do what it needs to do without these kinds of dollars being allocated. But there's also plans afoot, you know, to do the simple things, right? Like the technological fixes. And time matters because time is money. And so I don't like when things take too long. So anytime I hear they're working on it, that's code for it's taken too damn long.
Sure.
So I'm going to work on that. But again, take us through it, but help us. I mean, I love this type of presentation, but it's helpful for us. So we've got these great little lists. As you say, investigators, point out where these salaries are. That way I can make that connection.
Sure, Judge, if you go to our additional personnel request, it's
Okay.
in the middle of the second page, starting at pay grade 22, the criminal investigators. That's the
Got
first
it.
part.
I'm with you now.
You know, we've used the word resources a lot today, but the word we haven't used enough is assets. And our argument is essentially we're asking you to make an investment in human capital. Obviously, the people in our office, the human capital, are the ones who make the trains run on time, and they are invaluable to this county. Every time Ms. Jones goes to sleep at night, she knows that an experienced prosecutor is the one on her case, and an experienced prosecutor is the one who is committed indefatigably to justice for her. As it goes to investigators, if you're an investigator for our office, stand up, please. Norman here too? All right. Okay, to step out. All right, those 4 investigators, you can take a seat. Those 4 investigators' jobs have changed more radically than any other job in our office under Mark Gonzalez's administration. Prior to Mark taking office, our investigators primarily served subpoenas. They are now a police force that investigates our cases. In the last year's time, I've tried 8 or 9 murder cases. Vicky Puente has done supplemental investigation that has cracked each and every one of those cases wide open. Our office gets calls now from federal authorities asking for our investigators' help. Mike Damez, the investigator you see in the back, is a nationally renowned interdiction specialist. Not statewide, but nationally renowned. We have the best and the brightest in our office at all capacities. And here's what I wanted you to know about our investigators. They're not only sworn peace officers with arresting powers, they not only successfully apprehend wanted individuals, but as I said, they perform investigations in conjunction with other agencies. The reason we're asking for an increase in them is because their job description has greatly expanded and their value to our office has accordingly expanded. They perform investigations independently. We've had some investigations that originate from our office as well. They're uniquely trained on affidavits and warrants, and it's funny that we're talking about technology because each and every one of them is at the cutting edge on all the technological needs that we need in our investigations now. We have a policy now that if there is a phone seized in a case, it needs to be dumped. If there's a Facebook page, it needs to be dumped. That's where we get the bulk of our evidence these days. And prior to Mark taking office, the investigators did not function in that role, but they do now. And the concern that we have is that when you have talent of this level, we will not be able to retain them if other law enforcement agencies around the area are paying significantly more for a lower caseload and for fewer duties. And in addition to that, they are officers for the county, but they're left out of the collective bargaining process, so they don't have the same bargaining resources available to them to, advocate for their pay. And obviously, they provide direct contact and service to victims. Now I want to call up David Jakubowski, who actually serves in a dual role for our office. He's both an assistant district attorney and an investigator, and we thought he would be a good person to give you his experience, especially having been here in prior administrations.
And are you, if the feds call, can you charge them for your investigator?
I don't know that we can charge them, but there are times that we split.
You can charge them anything.
Yeah.
The question is you have to have that type of an agreement set forth.
And we do have, you want to come up, Kathy? We do have agreements with the feds.
We do, Judge.
It's not called charging, it's called reimbursement.
Yes, it is. And what we're trying to do is use that as in-kind or matching for grant programs. I think that's going to be our creative use for that.
That's a good idea.
Again, I've been here in this role for 5 or 6 months. That's one of the future ideas, is to leverage that so that when we come to y'all with a grant idea that has a matching requirement that allows us to use in-kind, that we use those investigative.
I think that's a good idea.
Match that, so we're not asking you for money to match those grants.
And I think in the other area y'all make money is when there's an interdiction and you confiscate monies, and then you can, sometimes the federal government will give you so much of that money.
That's right, and them calling us out is gonna allow us to get those federal asset forfeitures. Our federal, and I'm sure Dale can share, has not moved. It's our federal equitable sharing account that we have for federal forfeitures has seen no movement. We want movement there. We want to be partnering with the federal agencies to share those resources that we have with them and to gain the asset forfeiture resources they have. So that's one thing that we're trying to do. And one important reason to keep these investigators and keep them appropriately salaried so that they can continue those efforts to make nice with the feds so that we can share our resources and benefit our citizens better.
Got it. Thank you, Kathy.
I have a
David?
question.
Mhm.
Does the sheriff's office assist y'all at all, like the warrant division and any of these things that y'all are doing?
They do.
So are we duplicating what they're doing? Whose job is it to do it?
It's a both-and situation, and what I mean, Commissioner, is where we have cases that are far enough in the future where we can give those subpoenas to the sheriff's deputies. They definitely help us, and they also help us when we go out to serve warrants. So Mr. Jakubowski, who's tied up right now, when he goes out to serve a warrant, we have a policy that he has to go out with sheriff's officers. So they do help us. But really where our investigators are invaluable, not only in the global investigation of a case, is when we have a very short period of time that we have to procure witnesses for trial. Sometimes, as you can imagine, we have docket calls, right? And a case is called for a few days down the road. And unfortunately, we don't have the time to allow those subpoenas to go through the normal process and have the sheriff's deputy serve them just because of the process and how it works. So our investigators have to shoulder that burden, and they've done an extraordinary job doing that. But in those instances, it really falls on us more so than it does the sheriff.
You're talking about the short time to do the warrants.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
So,
right.
Commissioner Vaughn, I have a perfect example for you. When I was a child crimes prosecutor, I was working with a victim who was continuously victimized by her offender. It was her stepfather. And he was able to convince her that she was going to go to jail. And our investigator, I believe it was Vicky Puente at the time, had contact with her, actually went and got her for me. We got her back on board, and she went missing again. And you know who helped find her? Our office, because we needed her for trial, and our office knew her. Our investigator had contact with her, and she's somebody we desperately needed, and that gentleman now is in prison. And that is what we do. I couldn't have gone to the sheriff's office and got them to go convince this poor, scared young 18-year-old girl to come help us because she needed the person who was in our office who had worked with her before. So sometimes it is a matter of using the best resources. If it's a subpoena for a trial down the road, we're going to use the sheriff's office. But those examples, that's why they're invaluable, because we were able to, without that victim, Commissioner, I had nothing. I was going to have to dismiss that case and he'd be walking free, still victimizing her today.
I just want to make sure it's not duplicated services.
No, absolutely,
I would think
yes.
that's what they would do, so I would think that y'all would be coordinating with them.
Correct, and what we actually have our prosecutors doing is where the case is set out months or weeks, they are instructed to give those subpoenas to the sheriff's office so that it can go through the normal channels. But the issue is, as I've explained, when we have docket calls, that's where a judge calls all the cases that are coming up for the forthcoming week. There are a lot of times, and which is really the bulk of the time that those subpoenas need to be served, where we have to now go procure a witness with 3 or 4 days' time, and it can't go through that normal channel with the sheriff's deputies.
Thank you.
Sure.
But it's not only serve subpoenas, they do investigations of the case
Absolutely.
to determine who's the best witness and who's not.
Well, right.
I understand that, but I just wanted to make sure we were not duplicating when we have a sheriff's department as well.
We're not. We're working in league with the sheriff's department.
Thank you.
All right, so as the budget request, Kathy covered this for the administrators in our office, a livable wage and equitable pay based on skill, better working environment, and safer working environment. And then for the investigators, fair and equitable pay, updated safety equipment. We have JAG grant there in parentheticals because one of the things I want y'all to, the commissioner grant, actually. Now, one of the things we wanted y'all to know is that we are utilizing all of the resources that we have available to us, to procure what we need without asking for increases in the budget. And one of the things I did not mention is when our investigators go over to DEA or they go over to ATF or some federal agency and they get those phones dumped, we're not having to pay for that. And we're not having to pay for that because of the relationships that they have. We're able to leverage those relationships and what would otherwise be tens of thousands of dollars that we'd have to pay for our own equipment to do those things. We're not having to incur that cost. Instead, they're doing that by virtue of their relationships, which have been invaluable, and obviously it's something that is invaluable to the county. And then also talking about the flexibility of funds for the investigators. And one of the things that we are intending to do is to try to supplement pays through the asset forfeiture fund, but we've asked for it here because we think it's an immediate need, obviously, and we wanted to substantiate to the commissioners how important this investigator corps is to us. This is one of the things I like to tell people was one of Mark's best ideas. I think all of his ideas are great. Well, not all of them. A lot of them are great. But that one was by far the most helpful, the most immediately helpful to our office, because in our major cases, having an investigator corps of this caliber is invaluable. I mean, they have literally cracked wide open a number of the cases that have been brought to us by law enforcement. Not to disparage law enforcement, but it's to underscore to you all the value that we have in these investigators, both our interdiction specialists and the others.
Can I add a brief comment?
Sure.
A brief comment regarding our investigators. What we're here all to learn, right? I can tell I don't know much about some of the other departments, but I wish I did. But regarding the DA's office, once we get a case, right, that's when the PD brings it to us, or any law enforcement agency brings us the case. Then we dive into the case, and then we say, you know what, it would be good if we had this. A lot of times, once PD gives us a case, it's kind of like they're bringing it to us. So now it's our job to develop that case. And we can always call the detectives sometimes, and they're so overworked. I mean, everybody's spread thin. But a lot of times when we need something, these are the people that go get it. Whether it's at that night, it's the next day, they're the ones that go to help us to prove the case. And ultimately, that's what we need to do to secure justice. So that's another way for you to hopefully see what their role is and why they're doing some of the things that we're asking them to do. Because we know how to prove a case. Police understand and, how to arrest someone and procure evidence and maintain the integrity. But once we get it, then we may have other ideas as to how can we prove this case. And that's what they're doing here instead of just serving subpoenas, helping us to prove the case and ultimately get justice.
We don't want to belabor the point, but it's my understanding we only have about 10 minutes, so we would ask respectfully for just maybe a little extension if you'd oblige us, if we need to extend a little bit. Sure. Thank you. Now going to the attorneys, as I talked about human capital, obviously, again, to underscore, this is an investment in human capital. And our office has 43 assistant district attorneys. If you're an ADA for the office, please stand up.
Overwhelming.
Okay. Spread across our appellate divisions and our child case, you guys can take a seat, child crimes division, our DV court, misdemeanor division, our felony division. These are the best and brightest in Texas and in the United States to prosecute cases. But here's the reality of our office, and here's why we're asking for such a substantial increase, okay? Not only does our office and all of these prosecutors, are they required to have 2 degrees, but this is obviously the largest barrier or the highest barrier of entry to any job in the county. All right. And what we mean is that our office, just by the basic requirements, is required to have this much education, which translates to student loan debt, obviously, and which translates to higher salaries. I know you know that, and I don't mean to belabor the point. But the reason that's important is not only do they have those two hurdles to jump over, they have to get a bar license, right? Which is one of the most difficult things that there is to do in terms of testing and licensures to get a bar license. Our office has needs for both entry-level and experienced prosecutors. The reason that's important is this is really a public safety issue. This is a direct investment in public safety. And what I mean is when a murder case comes into our office, as much as our prosecutors may work hard, if they don't have the experience to handle those cases, then that does not put the best foot forward for the community. Now, thankfully, we have people in our office like a former district judge. We have very venerable attorneys here in the community, people like Jordi Schimmel and Angelica Hernandez, Rumi Solis, and others who have joined our office with years of experience. But the problem is, the reality is, we cannot both retain and attract the best talent across the state if our pay is not commensurate with other counties our size and the going rate around the state. I know you hear that from other people, but that's the reality of it. We had a person who got hired in our office. His name was Andrew Chaco. He got hired in our office and left within a month because he went to Harris County to make like $20,000 more. We can't compete with that. Brilliant guy, bright guy, wanted to be here. And as I mentioned, all the people who have left in the last couple of years have almost all said that they loved this job. They loved working here. They loved the environment. They loved the autonomy. They loved the ability to work on big cases. But when it comes down to feeding your family, at the end of the day, it's very difficult to justify not paying, getting paid $30,000 more down the road. That's just the reality of it. And I know that there are some financial strictures and some financial considerations, but we wanted to edify you. We talked about learning today. We wanted to edify you as to the reality of the issue in our office. The last couple postings that we have posted have drawn less than 5 applicants. And that's especially interesting considering this job market where people are graduating from law school and are having difficulty finding jobs. But a lot of them are saying, I just can't move to Corpus to work for that amount. But the other issue we have is we have people who want to be here, who've purchased homes here, who have made their homes here, but they realize that it's just financially untenable based on what we're currently paying. And frankly, we need to retain the talent that we do have. Is Christine McDonald here? Is she in? Okay. Actually, Friday is the last day for one of our felony prosecutors, Christine McDonald, and she said I could mention it to you all. She's loved our time in the office. She's an extraordinarily hard worker, brilliant attorney. She's moving to San Antonio to make significantly more in a different job. Now, the reality of it is that happens. But people like Christine, who will attest to you that they love our office, they love working here, and they have enjoyed their experiences here, and have found those experiences formative, unfortunately, cannot justify taking a pay cut. Everybody can't do it like Shara Rodriguez. So that's why it's imperative that we retain that talent and attract the best and brightest talent to our community. And this is just a visual going to that, showing one of our assistant district attorney felony 2 positions. We had 1 applicant for it.
Do you have any vacancies currently?
We do have, 2? Is that right?
We have one
One?
vacancy that's posted, and then with the new
With
movements, we're gonna have
McDonald,
2
too.
that are coming up, recently. And the thing I wanted to point out about this particular job posting is, our chiefs all met, and we said, we need better talent. That we need better talent. We need some experienced blood in here. Let's post one of our higher level jobs. So when we had a vacancy at Felony 2, we said, let's try and recruit. Let's get out there. Let's talk to people. This was posted on TDCAA where everybody knows to look for prosecutors' jobs. And we got 1 applicant. She's actually somebody who previously worked here and was not qualified for the level that we had. So even the applicant we had wasn't qualified for a Felony 2 spot. And so we're trying to recruit talent at the high end and at the low end and retain them. We're being creative with what the Commissioners Court has given us, and you'll see we're just not successful at doing that. We're using everything you've given us, though, is what we're trying to show you.
I've asked all departments that have asked for this, so I'm not picking on yours. If you have a chance, would you get to the office as a supplement to Tyner, just what Hidalgo's paying, what Webb, try to pull from like-minded counties in the sense, not like-minded, but demographically like counties so that we can do our own compensation study?
Judge, I do have some numbers for you. The reason we're not The reason we opted not to present those to you is because it's difficult. They're easy numbers to attack because caseloads vary. But what you'll find and what we found over and over is our caseloads are higher and we're less paid and we have, fewer prosecutors handling each case. So I'd be happy to supplement that to your office.
Right, it's just additional evidence, that's all.
We've had we had a gentleman leave about 2 weeks ago to work in a municipal court, so far less significant cases.
Right.
Making significantly more in the Houston area, so not quite the same size, but that's just a testament to the variance and the variation in cost and in pay. So going forward, this is just a graphic showing law school tuition and fees. These are not in-state here in Texas, but this is about commensurate with what you'll find. And you'll find that our attorneys are carrying very heavy debt loads, which we'll talk about here in a moment, which of course affects purchasing power essentially with what they take home each month. So at this time, I'm going to call Crystal Mathis, who's one of our child crimes prosecutors. And my understanding is one of 92 people in the state of Texas this year who has gotten a life sentence on a super aggravated case involving children. So very, very important job. Crystal.
Good morning. I spoke to you all in April of this year, and at that time I said that I had had a rough week and it was difficult to want to stay with the county because really of the pay and the lack of resources. Part of the reason for the difficulty not having everything I needed to be able to do my job effectively. And when I was so frustrated, I sat back and I had to think, well, I can't afford to work for the government, but I can't afford not to, and my position is still the same. However, at this point, I have gotten offers, or I have been approached by civil firms, and I have also been approached by other counties to prosecute cases, but they're not, as the positions haven't been as a child protection unit prosecutor. And I'm just not willing to leave my home to prosecute drug cases. I would do it to protect children in other counties, but this is my home and I want to stay here. But it's getting more and more difficult to do that as my student loans debt keeps increasing because of the interest accrued, and my salary is staying the same. In this position, I am one of the highest paid attorneys in the office without being in a supervisor position. I joke with the administration and often and tell them that they have an extra chief that they don't have to pay like an extra chief because I've been here for 7.5 years. I get a lot of questions on a daily basis from prosecutors that are new, but also those that are experienced and just don't know how our office works. So that's on a daily basis, but I'm not getting compensated for it. And on top of all of that, it's just been very difficult to want to stay in this county because of the pay. But I'm hoping that after today we can see increases in our salaries and be able to live comfortably and just be able to meet the basic needs with our paycheck, with our salaries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next, I want to talk very quickly about the juvenile justice system. We have two very highly specialized prosecutors there, one of whom is here. Cassie, would you stand up, please? That's Cassie Bonilla. She's one of our two prosecutors. And, Judge, this correlates to, on our additional personnel request form, the last line on the first page over into the first line on the second page. And then a little of the ways down, you see Assistant DA, Attorney 1, Juvenile. We're asking for increases in both of those. Part of the reason is the way those positions are classified is they don't actually have the same stair steps of ascension as all the other people in our office. So they're basically classified out on their own, which means that they get stuck or they top off at a certain point. Cassie and Logan are very much self-contained over at the juvenile court, very highly specialized area of knowledge. Even many of us who have practiced for several years don't know much about juvenile law, and it's very important because their interface obviously
I agree with that.
Yeah, it's very difficult, as you well know, and they have a very specialized body of knowledge, are very highly regarded by law enforcement, and do a wonderful job over there for us. But the problem is they can't go past a certain point. So we're asking that those positions be reclassified for their pay to be commensurate with other pay in the office, and for them to have an opportunity to earn more.
We're also, you'll see that first request is to remove an Assistant DA, Attorney 1 Juvenile, and make an Assistant DA, Attorney 2 Juvenile. You'll see the addition on the top of the second page. That's to create some amount of steps. So the attorney in juvenile that's been there the longest, in theory, would be paid a little bit more than the newer attorney in that area. So there's always one with that institutional knowledge that we need to be paying a little bit more so that they can be educating the new person.
And one of the central tenets of Mark's platform going forward essentially is juvenile justice and making sure that we're doing what we can to divert juveniles from, as early in the process as possible from becoming repeat offenders and us seeing them on the adult side. So it's really imperative that our juvenile prosecutors have the resources, obviously, to compete, number one, and number two, to be compensated for the wonderful work that they do.
I haven't done the math, Lisa, but overall, or Matt, do you know, besides the victims coordinator, how many pluses are there? I mean, most of it's reclassification and reassignments. How many pluses do you show?
There are 2 new employees that they're requesting there at the very bottom. I separated them out from the reclassification so that you would be able to see those
Okay.
more clearly instead of having them mixed in with
I
the
got 'em
others.
down at the bottom.
So yes, the 2 down at the bottom, the Assistant DA Violent and High Profile, and the Victim Witness
Okay,
Coordinator.
that makes sense. Just trying to keep us straight here.
And we'll discuss that in earnest in just a moment, Judge. But going forward, we just wanted to talk about a little bit about the inequity in the system. You'll see here in the forthcoming slides that we've done an analysis as between our indigent defense costs, so basically what we pay the defense attorneys who represent people who are unable to hire an attorney, as compared to the prosecutors. You see that the highest level offenses or prosecutors and juveniles have the largest disparity. You have a lot of prosecutors that will ultimately leave and just open up, hang out a shingle, work for themselves. And as you see, the indigent defense costs rise with inefficient prosecution. And this is one thing we really wanted to show you. So this is, let me go back. This is the indigent defense comparison. If you look at it, in September 2016, which is essentially contemporaneous with what we're talking about, Jim Lawrence, who's one of our local defense attorneys, was paid $140,000 in indigent defense costs, and Kathy Mills, who is now in our office, whom we poached from private practice, earned $66,000 that year, which is not including all of the retained cases that he and she were able to take alongside those appointed cases. And if you look in between there, you actually see what Mark Gonzalez earned in 2016. And if you look over, you see what I earned in 2016. And that's $42,000 of just indigent defense. That's what we were paid. It's my understanding that our indigent defense costs are essentially on par with our prosecution costs. And the reason that creates a grave inequity is because the prosecutors obviously are working for a salary. Their caseloads are significantly higher. As a defense attorney receiving appointed cases, you're definitely doing important work. I don't mean to belittle it, but it doesn't require the same time expenditure all the time. Sometimes that's paying for a dismissal, right, as opposed to what you're paying a salaried prosecutor. So there's a pretty wide gap there.
And I did want to point out these specific numbers. We only have up to 2016, but the last total budget for our county for indigent defense was $3.6 million. If you look at what our salary budget is, it's similar. These are just indigent cases, y'all. There are retained attorneys handling a large number of other cases that we handle.
You can talk to the state of Texas, not us, about that. You know that, right? I mean, this is an unfunded mandate that we must provide, and you can go on. I'm going to act like a real judge now. I'm going to say move on, counselor, just because we can make a good argument. Remember, I'm the daughter of a criminal defense lawyer, but the point is that you don't have to pay for your shingle, your electricity, your telephone, your incomplete infrastructure. I'm not even sure if you pay for your state bar fees. I mean, the point is that I get it, but it's not a comparison that we'd have to do adjustments there to really see what apples to apples is, but I get it, and it's enough, I mean, I'm with you, but don't overtry the case, because I'm gonna, don't lose me, man, you got me, keep working,
I won't,
keep
Judge.
working.
As I would say, in
Yeah.
court, may I supplement my
Because
argument?
it's different, it's different.
All right.
But the point is well taken, that in private practice, the pay is definitely different, right? But again, we don't have control over that. That is an unfunded mandate by the state of Texas. However, I want you guys to know that it brings more dollars in. We are pursuing vigorously our Indigent Defense Fund grants like never before. And thanks to Judge Maderi, who sits on those committees, we're going to be a little bit more aggressive. So, at any rate, I just wanted to,
In the spirit of edification.
in the spirit of
good
advocacy here.
Yeah, you know.
Hey, well done, sir, well done. Keep going.
Thank you, Your
Keep
Honor.
going only because, honestly, I want us to be timely. We have a collective bargaining meeting, and I'm not on it, but I know Tyner is. I want to give Tyner the ability. Tyner, if you need to go to that, it just flashed on my screen here.
It's a meeting with you, Judge, after this.
Oh, shoot.
We're almost done, Judge. We really have a few
Okay.
slides, and I'll blow through them.
Okay.
This is just a visual representation. We have this huge board hanging up in the central plaza of our office. We're actually in the process of buying another to hang it up. This constitutes all the violent crime cases, so your capital murders, major violent cases that you see on the news. This is one board. We have several in our office. As you heard me say, for the last 8 months or so, I've tried 8 or 9 of them myself, along with Jared Horton and other prosecutors in the office. This is to show you that we are asking for a violent crimes prosecutor position. It's extremely important, and the reason is we need a prosecutor, in addition to the ones that we already have, who are very well able to shoulder this burden. Unfortunately, we have a spate of violent crimes in our community, and accordingly, we need people who are equipped with the skills and the knowledge to prosecute those cases, which is why we're asking for the new position, and that one is the bottom.
I see it. It's
Oh, yeah, on the second page,
3801.
thank you. And it's Assistant DA Violent and High Profile. So very quickly, I'll ask Doug Norman, who's our appellate chief, to come up and give you a few remarks.
Hi, Doug.
Good morning, Judge.
Good morning.
I think the most effective thing I could say is just to give you sort of a snapshot of what often happens in our office from my perspective. I've been there for about 20 years. I'm in the appellate section. We not only do the appeals, but because we're researching all day long, we often get called to assist with legal matters, with the motions, with questions that come up during trial that are unexpected. And a typical day for me, I'll get called by one of our attorneys, a bright attorney who's been there for maybe 3 or 4 years, somebody who's good at what they do, but they've got a motion from an attorney like a Terry Shamsi or maybe a Les Cassidy. Somebody's been doing this for 20 years, and they will call me and say, help, I've got this motion, I'm not sure how to respond to it. I've got this question that came up during trial, I'm not sure exactly how to respond to it. And myself or one of the other attorneys with the appellate section will rush up to trial, and we will do our best to supplement and to help that attorney fight against a veteran, seasoned attorney, many of whom have actually worked for our office, and they learned their skills in our office. And we do the best we can, and we win probably most of our battles with them. But more and more, as our attorneys are being pulled off sooner and sooner, pulled away from us for higher paying jobs, it's getting harder and harder to fight those battles because there are only so many of us who have the seasoned, experience and training. And I can't go to every court where we've got a Terry Shamsi or a Les Cassidy. I just can't do it. We need to retain our attorneys. We're basically, and I think Crystal put it probably as well as anybody could have, at a certain point in their training, they are being offered jobs with significantly more money. And in a sense, we're asking them to do something that makes no sense at all. We're asking them to stay at the rate of pay that they're getting now, to stay in a position where they're being paid much less than they could be paid elsewhere. And the only reason that Crystal and others stay with us is because of the passion they have for what they do. There are many attorneys, though, that find a job elsewhere where they can exercise that same passion and get adequately paid for it. And we're asking respectfully that the county look seriously at that and help us retain some of the best attorneys we've got to help them pursue their passion and to adequately pay them for doing so. Thank you.
Thank you.
So in terms of our office needs, I won't read every one. We've kind of delineated them for you. We need violent crimes talent. We need people that have experience to come in. We need to retain the talent that we have. And our requests are obviously more equitable pay, one additional violent crimes prosecutor, new technology, which we've talked about. And what Kathy and I were just discussing is that we're asking that, all of our increases are kind of a stair step. So we ask that they all be considered and taken together. But I will tell you, not in the interest of martyrdom, but in the interest of truth, if you are willing to give salary increases to most of the staff, I would gladly not take mine. And you can write it out on your list right now if that means that our staff gets it, because I'm already at the top end of what I get paid. And thankfully, it's a lot easier for me to subsist than it is a lot of people in our office. And it is a matter of significance that they get that increase. So in terms of our summary reminders, more equitable distribution of pay, recruit and retain the best servants, and our different accounts have different requests. But finally, what we wanted to show you was a slide on our student loans. So we did a sampling of about half of our prosecutors, 24 ADAs, and 6 of our support staff. And the number we came to was $3.8 million in student loan debt in our office. The monthly student loan payment that each and every one of these that have student loans has to carry constitutes a significant burden that's largely unique to our office and staff, with the exception of the county attorney. And the reason I say that is because they take out bar loans, they take out loans for law school, they take out loans for undergrad. Obviously, capitalized interest is the eighth wonder of the world, and unfortunately, we're on the bad end of that. And that means that when they get a paycheck every month, that paycheck is immediately deducted from it if they're making their payments, significant amounts, sometimes mortgage amounts. The average that each attorney is carrying in our office is about $150,000. So this increase directly affects their ability to provide for their families, to take home a little more, and to live a little better each month. Finally, we're just asking that our employees receive fair pay, and we'd be happy to supplement to the judge's office commensurate pay around the state and relatively sized counties. But anything else, Kathy? I'll give the mic back to Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you.
I don't want to overstay our welcome, so I thank you guys for the time, and I thank you for the attention that you've given our office and our presentation. I know it was long, and I know that there are some times, we just can't do some of the things that we're asked. But I hope that you guys be as creative as possible to help us get there. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Mark, I have a question.
Sure.
So, I don't know, it was last budget year or 2 years ago, we came in to office at the same time, both elected in 2016.
We're up again in 2020.
Yeah, but in that time, in the budget time, you came up and you presented a lot of programs, a lot of ways that may cost us a little, but in the long run, it's going to save us a lot. Have we kind of gotten to that point? Are we still waiting for that to happen? Or what are some of those programs, if you can kind of refresh my memory, that you've implemented that is really, at the end, it's a savings to the taxpayers?
So we're here to present, obviously, what we want, employee salary increases, but we have saved the county a lot of money. And so as the two positions that we have funded in prior years, if we didn't meet our goals, then the county would have to be forced to pay that, right? Whether those two individuals were on staff and we didn't have those amounts in our budget, then that means you guys would foot the bill. Am I right, Dale? Or? And so, as long as we're being current, we're providing more, resources or more manpower at no cost to the county. So typically, when our office would rely on the county footing the bill, we've actually been self-sustaining. I know that our accounts have been a lot higher since I took office regarding pretrial diversion programs. Those monies also have gone to supplement salaries and to pay for some of the salaries. I don't know. Do you know how many we have on staff that come directly out of that fund? So we have 5 employees that come out of all those programs that our office is paying for, or
5 out of pretrial and 2 out of drug forfeiture, so 7 total.
So 7 total positions that our office, through the programs that we've created, are actually paying and for these positions. And in the past, those positions have been there. But when we couldn't pay, because the accounts when we came in were very, very small. And so when we couldn't pay for those, then the county would again foot the bill. And so those are at least 2 ways that we've actually saved the county money. And I'm hoping, at least with the Cite and Release program, that has been up and running for maybe, 3 months?
2 months, and I just wanted to give the commissioners a concrete number. We did it this morning. So far in the last 2 months, we've had 210 people cited, which at the average of $81 a day equates to $17,000 just in the first 2 months that we've saved the county in not incarcerating people for even 1 day. Our cite and release is going on as we speak, and we're getting a very healthy number of citations. For context, when Bexar County did this years ago, they did it for about 90 days, and I think they had 30 people cited. So in 60 days, we've already had 210 cited. We anticipate that the trend will continue.
So excuse me, Dale, just a clarification. So when I'm looking at salaries overall in the budget, are those 7 in that cumulative number?
Well, you have to look at it separately. For the general fund, we have 61 employees for the district attorney's office, and that's funded out of the general fund. We have 2 special revenue accounts. The pretrial diversion has 5 employees, and his state narcotics has 2. So those are each individually funded by their own sources of funds.
Correct, but when I'm looking at the budget, let me look at the numbers so I can actually, when I see,
In other words, are they on this list here?
that's
Well,
right.
the one that you're seeing here is 3520. It's only representing those that are in the general fund.
That's right, Judge.
Okay.
You'll recall at the beginning, I delineated the 3 accounts. The requests that we have in each account matches, but the reason we pointed that out is we need approvals. If the attorney 1 out of 3520 is being approved, we need it out of the
Yeah,
1323.
okay, so we are doing the separation.
That's correct.
That's
We are
really was my
seeing in
question.
front of us
Yes.
for the general
Yeah,
fund.
yeah, okay, sorry, that's what I wanted to make sure of.
For pretrial as well as the forfeiture thing.
Dale,
Right.
I'm just learning some stuff here today. Do they have any other funds, the pretrial and forfeiture? Are there any other funds? How many other funds do y'all have?
The only one they have is a T-close certification fund where they have training for it, but that's the only other one they have separate for.
Certification fund?
It's an education fund.
Education fund.
So that gets
gives
funded
us
to
a
train
certain
our
amount of funds
investigators.
Each year that they have to use for education,
Okay.
for their investigators usually.
And we've tried to be creative as well, is to save the
Well,
county.
You also have federal forfeiture, but as you said, that's very.
Non-existent in our federal forfeiture. But I want to say that I'm hopeful that those accounts will start to rise because of the partnerships that Agent Tamez has actually made, and some of the actual interdictions and seizures have led to where we are part of federal investigations. I don't know, can I say that? I guess I can. But with that will mean that those accounts are gonna eventually, we will receive assets because of those partnerships where he stops someone coming down from Houston to the Valley, and then they stop them, the feds take it over, and they go to Houston and get a huge drug house and then they sue them for all the assets, whether it's 18-wheelers, airplanes, houses. We're gonna get a cut of that. And it's gonna be something that we're gonna see later on. So I hope that those federal numbers eventually go up, but at this point they're non-existent. But it's going to take time, and they're out there and they're being active in it. Another thing that we've tried to save the county with is a lot of times on the front end, or on the back end, when you have a felony and you have misdemeanors attached to it, most of the time, we plea out a case and the misdemeanors are dismissed, right? So what we're doing on the front end now is not taking those cases and only charging them with the most serious crime, and that means that person is able to get out of jail and free up because we're not charging those cases on dismissals on the misdemeanors. So that's one of the way we're trying to say, and if we can, we want to work with the sheriff to free up those beds, and if that means we have to, stop prosecuting maybe some of the most, smaller, minute cases, then we're going to do whatever we can to assist the sheriff in making sure that we're in compliance with the feds and that we're not over 90% capacity. And I have no problem taking the heat on doing those types of things.
I think the cite in lieu of arrest is, we're just too early, but I think
Sure.
it's going to save a tremendous amount of dollars to the county.
One of the good things that I want to point out is the fact that law enforcement is using it. You heard how many that they're actually 216. Cite and release is the way it was called in Dallas and St. Louis arrest, as we may refer to it here. It has been active in Dallas for quite some time. But law enforcement and the county attorney and the district attorney didn't like each other. So guess what? Officer said, I'm not going to do it. I don't have to do it. I don't want to do it. But here, because of the partnerships that we have with PD and other agencies, they're actively using it as another tool on their belt. And so I want to give a thanks to them for actually wanting to do the work and going through with this program, so that way the beds in the jails aren't filled and not at a cost to the taxpayer.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
You said you are charging the felony, you're dropping
Sure.
the misdemeanors.
Sure.
So any charges that were associated with the misdemeanors, they go away, and it's just a felony.
No, so there's a specific list of cases that we have included. And of course, we met with law enforcement after the fact that we had a policy and got their responses as to what they felt would not make them safe. And of course, we listened to them. We're not officers, just the way they aren't lawyers. And once we spoke to each other, we realized what they wanted, and we had no issue changing those things. So everyone's on board with what we're doing. It happens anyways on the back end.
I was just about to say, the reality is that it happens, and we want to get those off our docket. That's the most important thing. I think there's misinterpretation. I hate to move backwards on the clock, but what she's asking, and it's very important for the public, so I know you can clarify it better, is that these people are not getting away with anything. It's not like we're creating a free get out of jail because there was a misdemeanor change to your felony. It's that they're consolidated, and there is a better effective way to clear that docket of those misdemeanors.
Well, I understand that. My question was really this. I'm wondering if we've lost any money because not collecting for the misdemeanors.
So
That was my question.
no, typically those cases would be taken into consideration when you plea something out or you go to a trial in a case. If anything, the longer that they're in jail, we're actually wasting money in housing those individuals when they're waiting to go to prison. Let's say somebody has an aggravated assault. He got 8 years, 10 years, even 20 years, and he's sitting in county for a criminal trespass, right? He sits in county at $81 a day because defense attorneys like me said, you know what? Hey, my family lives here. They get to come visit me in Nueces County. You think I want to go to, up north somewhere to some prison? I'm going to plead not guilty to all those misdemeanors, so that way the state has to try me every single time, and I get to sit here in Nueces County. I get to have my mom and dad come visit me every Saturday. I get to get phone calls. I get to stay with more criminals that I know in the county jail, and so that's why it's very important that we get rid of those cases, especially if somebody got 10 years. Do we really care about a 30-day take into consideration? It doesn't make any sense.
I remember when you had the list that you did that. I just had some exceptions to
Sure.
the list. It was like evading arrest.
And we made
y'all changed that. I
we
remember
made
that.
corrections to those.
Can you actually say time served and get them out?
Sure, and that's what we've done many times. We exercise our discretion as we have full authority to do so. And if somebody has gotten a prison sentence, then of course we're going to say, you know what, we're not going to keep him here. Let's get him out of here. And so that's a cost. It just makes sense as a cost to the county to do that. Any other questions?
Just one thing, if I can add very quickly. One of the other ways that we've saved money is through the diversionary programs that we have. Obviously, not just pretrial diversion, but things like the Veterans Court and the jail diversion program, ways that we're trying to make sure people are not incarcerated. And that's also one of the ways that we are maximizing the resource of our staff. So our staff is here on the weekends working up their cases for the diversionary court. Holt Feemster in our Veterans Court. Jenny Dorsey, our chief of training, who handles all of our mental health, diversionary stuff. That's another way that we're saving the county money, because instead of those people sitting in jail in those cases, they're being diverted out to receive services or into programs that help keep them out of the jail.
Yeah, I think Jenny and I heard a report that there were 65 arrests that were diverted. So
And we are always open to how we can be creative to whether save money, but never at the interest of, obviously,
public safety.
Public safety.
One other thing, I have
Sure.
my assistant looking some stuff up because there's a Nueces County employee in student loan. It's a federal program. Has anyone looked at that? That if you pay I don't know if they're eligible or not.
It's after
You have to pay 120 payments or something.
So that's the deal, and that's the deal I'm on. It's a 10-year repayment program, and at the end of the 10 years, they forgive it. But for those 10 years, I'm the only income earner for my family. I've taken 2 unpaid maternity leaves, one with the county and one as a solo practitioner. I've lived in the red for the last 2 years having these kids. And with my student loans, yes, I'm on it, but it's 10 years until it's gone. And so at the end of the 10 years, do you want talent that with years of experience and institutional knowledge? We talked about continuity of our services. I could walk out the door when I'm done because I'm free.
And I get that, but I'm just asking, I'm just
Yeah,
saying
it's
y'all are aware
available,
of it.
and they
would
are.
you still have that loan after 10 years if you weren't on the program? I'm just
No,
looking.
yes, I would. And when I left the county the first time, my student loan debt ballooned from 185 to over 300,000 because of the time that I spent in public service. I had no choice.
Just something to look at. And I don't know what it covers, just Googling.
Of course, we're just
bringing it up,
edifying.
Just seeing if y'all know about it.
But the public loans are covered under that. If you have private loans through a private lender, that would not be a part of that program.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, obviously, it was very comprehensive. I want to thank everybody for coming and showing support for yourself and your colleagues and your department. And it goes without saying how much we appreciate what you do. And don't lose the passion and don't lose hope, because we're all in this boat together. And there is no doubt that all departments feel that they are not being paid in a commensurate way. And I can tell you that it is a high priority of mine and of this court's to at least educate first, then try to find a way to, meet the needs as we see it. And I also think that what a very good way to maybe do it is to do something over time. In other words, you can create a plan just like you've done in many ways with some of your expenses. I'll do this year and I'll do this second year. I come from an infrastructure mind and world, so we do this as a matter of course for infrastructure, but we don't often do it for human capital. We do not have a meritocracy in this county government. I'm sorry for that. I don't like it. It's what I've stepped into, but the way we address our needs is we come and claw for them, right? We come and ask and beg and grovel and try to justify and create cases, and, it's not the right way to do it. But I think that what we can do is if we get to the right level and then you apply the longevity pay that we have and apply the CPI, then you start even again. We got off track over a decade ago. And I just want everyone to know that I don't want you to think that you don't have support in what you're asking. I can only speak for myself, but you have my support in what you're asking for, Mark, is reasonable. The issue, of course, has nothing to do with reason or logic. It has everything to do with the dollars that we have and the expenses that we also have. But I can also tell you, every time you educate this court, you make all of us think about how we can fund the most important priorities. And for me, I'm now looking at, over time, how can I get you what you need so that we don't fall back another decade? And that is something that we're going to have to work on together. And what I was going to ask is, I know it's a lot because you've put a lot of work in this, but I've been meeting with department heads one-on-one to go over maybe a little bit more specifics, just very high. Kathy, if you'll reach out to Maggie, my schedule's insane, but I'm already 30 minutes behind a day. That means by the end of the day, I can't buy the time back. But please reach out and let me share with you, after visiting with Dale again, some ideas that we have. Particularly, let's get you moving forward on the technology on an ASAP basis. And Matt, you always do a great job presenting. Thank you. And thanks, Mark, very, very much. And that's the 2 scoops, by the way, that Joel Osteen, that's the sermon, I remember it well, where he says, why would you want 1 scoop when God can give you 2?
But sometimes he gives you 1 only.
No waffle cones. Okay. Thank you guys very, very much.